Good evening, everybody. Welcome to council, or the El Centro Council meeting for, what are we on, December 15th? What are we on, 15th? Roll call, please.
Mayor Jackson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Alex Cardenas,
Present.
Councilmember Villegas Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Silva,
Present.
and Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
We can all please stand. We'll have the pledge by Councilmember Garcia and invocation by Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Cardenas.
Read after me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You guys join me in prayer. Precious Heavenly Father, thank you again for this day, Lord. We're just especially grateful that we can recognize you here tonight, Lord. We just ask that you be with our citizens, Lord, that you be with our employees, Father God, and you be with our community, Lord. And we just do this in your name. Amen.
Next, we have report out of closed session by our city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have two because I need to conclude the report out from the December 1st meeting. So with respect to the December 1st, 2015 meeting, on a motion by Councilmember Sanders, second by Councilmember Cardenas, the City Council met in closed session at 8:08 p.m. All council members were present. The council considered the discipline, dismissal, release of a public employee. The city attorney and the HR director participated in the discussion. Direction was given to staff, and there is final action to report, which is that the city council accepted the resignation of the city attorney. Closed session concluded at 9:12 p.m. And then for today's meeting, the December 15th, 2015 meeting, on a motion by Councilmember Silva, second by Councilmember Cardenas, the city council met in closed session at 11:32 a.m. All council members were present. With regard to the pending litigation entitled City of El Centro versus Mercado, with the case information appearing on the agenda, a report was given to the council. On a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Cardenas, direction was given to staff with no final action to report. Reports were given to the council on the two anticipated litigation items listed on the agenda. For the first item, on a motion by Councilmember Silva, second by Councilmember Villegas Walker, direction was given to staff with no final action to report. For the second item, on a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Mayor Jackson, direction was given to staff with no final action to report. Council discussed the appointment of an interim city attorney. On a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Silva, direction was given to staff. There is a contract coming out of closed session for the city to contract with Dennis H. Morita, APC, for as-needed legal services. Closed session ended at 12:48 p.m., and that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Okay, we'll move on to presentations and announcements by the mayor. We have two presentations and acknowledgements for service to the city of El Centro. And I believe they're both here. Yes, they are. Mr. Harold Walk and Ms. Marcela Miranda Silva. Hyphen Silva. A testimonial of sincere appreciation from the city of El Centro presented to Harold M. Walk and Marcela Miranda Silva for dedicated service to the city as a plan commissioner in Mr. Walk's case, February 09 to November of 15. And in Marcella's, it's November 11 to November 15. So if we can have you guys come up and be recognized. Oh, yeah. You guys want to speak? I know Harold never.
Talk about what a wonderful experience it was for you.
It was a wonderful experience. It really was. It was quite a learning process, and got a lot out of it. But the most important part is we felt like, and I think I can speak for Marcella on this, that we made a contribution to the city, and it was good to see that there's growth with the city. And of course, we worked in coordination with City Council. Of course, things went on to you. And it was really good to have other interaction with the city, working with various programs, the Vision 2050 and such, so that we can have more business growth and job growth here in El Centro. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And we look forward to the council and the Planning Commission continuing the good work to see more of this. So thank you.
First, I'd like to say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to serve the city of El Centro. I'm greatly appreciated. I found everything to be very, very interesting. I think that the projects that came in through the Planning Commission and the City Council are great. There's a lot of collaboration within the community, different developers, and hope to see more developers and investors come into the city of El Centro.
Thank you. Council members, Mr. Silva? Okay. Ms. Garcia?
Thank you very much for taking the time to serve on the Planning Commission. It definitely is a great thing for the community to get involved. Thank you very much.
I do want to echo Mr. Garcia's comments in terms of a thank you. We're seeing that fewer and fewer people have either the time or whatever it takes. Maybe it's a public call to service. And we really appreciate the years and years of dedicated service that both of you have committed to this community, given to this community. I agree that I think that we have an outstanding planning commission. I think that you've done an excellent job, you and those that have served with you. I also think that our planning staff is just over the top wonderful. So wonderful, in fact, that I have proposed to the League of California Cities that at the next annual conference, that they actually have a breakout session on what planning directors wished city council members knew about the planning process. And I've recommended our own planning director to be one of the panelists. So we have our fingers crossed that would be, that would come forward.
And not to interrupt, but I just want to say what a great job Norma did.
Yes.
She's very knowledgeable and just was great every step of the way, along with her staff.
Yes.
I agree.
So again, thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, again, I just thank you for your guys' service. I really appreciate everything. Made my job a lot easier, and everything that you brought to the council was just quality work. So thank you so much for your decisions and recommendations.
And this is one of the circumstances in which I've known both of you guys here for a long time. Of course, my wife for not as long, but I know her better than I do know you.
Thanks for clarifying. Thanks for clarifying.
And, you know, I hate to see both of you guys leave the commission. The different circumstances have created this, but I know that how dedicated both of you guys were, how much you care about the city of El Centro, and how you also have made the city of El Centro better community than it was when you started. So thank you for your service. Thanks.
Yeah. I just want to, everybody's been said everything that needs to be said, but I will say that Harold, you know, I had the honor of working with you on the Planning Commission a couple years back before I was on the council, and always enjoyed your insight and your knowledge and your passion in getting projects through and really growing the city of El Centro the right way, and that was something I very much appreciated. Marcel, didn't get to be on the commission with you, but certainly enjoyed everything that came out of the commission over the last 4 years. I know you put a lot of time and effort into it, and it shows in the quality of projects that came before the council, so thank both of you guys. And council's going to come down and do a quick photo with you guys. And Norma, can you join us? Our photographer. There he is.
You are so talented.
Comes out of the
Very
gate.
nice.
You go in the middle.
Oh, here, bus switch with you.
That work?
Emilio is like the little guy in the refrigerator that comes and turns the light on and off when you open the door. He's our camera guy, comes out of the back of there. All right, moving on. We have a couple of scheduled public comments. First, we have a presentation from Mothers and Men Against Gang Coalition. And I've also moved item number 21 to follow, which is a presentation by the Central Police Department on the multicam uniform. So, Julie? Just so you know what your purpose is.
There you go.
I can move this over here. Good. Okay. Good evening. My name is Yulil Alonso Garza, and I am the president and founder of Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition. And I am also an alumni of Centro, 1990, so very familiar with this city. MAG Coalition was founded in 2013, and it is short in MAG Coalition. We call it Mothers and Men Against Gangs. And it was in memory of our son, Martin Alberto Garza. Let's see if I can get this video. Oh, no, couldn't get the video too. I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry. Okay, how do I get this? Just want to have you guys get to know my son. Short video. It's very short for his short life lived. I know I could probably go on forever and show you what kind of a son he was. Sorry, trying to get back to where I was. Gotta move this along. So this is our family. I'm a teacher. My daughter was cheerleader. My son, the football player. My husband, the peace officer. And we were often called the all-American family because kind of what you grow up wanting to have, you know, the police officer and the teacher and the kids, the all-American kids. And what many have shared with us that if it can happen to a family like ours, it can happen to any family. And the Imperial Valley kind of had a wake-up call when this happened on January 6th. And our mission is to raise crime victim awareness, increase family and community unity, deter youth and their family from violence by creating change for the betterment of our youth in memory of our son. And when we first started, many thought that we only wanted to do this in Brawley because that is where we reside. But our vision was to make a change
for our whole community in the Imperial Valley, because we wanted to create a nonviolent community that would heal victims of violent crimes, assist families to form stronger bonds, because we know that everything starts at home, nurture community partnerships, and that's the reason we are called the Coalition, and gather data to educate our community, which is something that we want to move forward and start doing, and gathering the information from our own community to pass on to our community members. We also want to empower everyone with the knowledge, strength, and faith to combat violence and not live with the fear that this can actually happen to you. But our community must unite to create this change. We can't do it alone. And so these are the several events that we have during the year, which we hope that the council will incorporate into their community events. Upcoming is our anniversary peace vigil, which we presented a few weeks ago, and the anti-gang awareness fair that will be held at Imperial Valley College. And we have an ongoing Smash Bro Bear Drive that we actually do to help the kids that are in foster care. We've partnered up with CASA, and Alex, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, is one of the persons that we work with as the director of CASA. In February, we usually start our Letterman Jacket kickoff, and we help kids earn their jackets for free or almost free. I'm trying to move this along faster. And in March, one of the essential events that we do is a community outreach booth at the fair, where we reach out to the parents, we reach out to students, we reach out to little kids, and we try to teach them how to proceed as friends and not to use violence as a way to take out their anger, and as well as tell everyone about the different activities we do all year long. In April, we have a sneaker ball where we acknowledge the people who have been helping MAG Coalition or have actually worked towards the prevention of gang activity in their community. And we do it during Crime Victims' Rights Week because we know that it's important to recognize that there's victims after the crime. And we also have a soccer tournament that will be coming up to kick off the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And one of the things that have stood out during our sneaker ball is the culmination of all the law enforcement coming together to support MAG Coalition's efforts. And what we want is to see more of the education community and also the elected officials come together to show support for what we are trying to do, is prevent kids from joining gangs. In May, we decided to create MAG Games because our son didn't get a chance to celebrate his 18th birthday, and we had been planning a big birthday party and graduation party. Unfortunately, he didn't get to his graduation, and we ended up attending in his place, and there was an empty chair at that graduation, but we still celebrated his birthday by reaching out to kids around the community and keeping them busy with different sports events. We also do educational presentations. One of the ones that we did was at Kiki Camarena Junior High, where I teach. And I didn't realize how far my message went until I started walking around campus on a regular basis, and the kids started coming up to me and asking me, was I the mother of Martin, and kind of sharing how they have started to change. And many of them have shared this, and I think that it makes a difference when we go out there and we help out. In September, we try to also help the students get their Letterman jacket. A little bit late this year, but we have helped many, and we've partnered up with the local business, which is Driscoll's. They've been a great support, and they've seen a lot of kids that they normally said they wouldn't see getting their jackets, receive their jackets there. On September 25th, we also hold a National Day of Remembrance for Murdered Victims, which our son is. November, December, we try to organize some softball tournaments. And in lieu of waiting for the murder trial in January, we've postponed those this year. But we did do the cattle call parade, which is something that I think I was a little bit crazy on my behalf. To walk down Main Street in 2013 with a big sign that said Mothers and Men Against Gangs, not realizing that perhaps down that parade line there would be gang members that perhaps wouldn't be so warming towards the message that we were sending. Yet we have done it 3 years with a safe outcome and actually more support gathering throughout the years. And he wouldn't have missed a cattle call, so we want to make sure that we're always present and there to do outreach for our community. This is the picture of one of the toy drives that we did. We went to Casa along with other car clubs. We donated toys to the Casa foster care kids, and to see them there and receiving all these gifts, it was priceless. I plan on doing it again. This year it was hard just simply because we're preparing for that trial, and so but we will continue to do with that partnership. And our goal is to partner up with all city councils, including the El Centro City Council, school districts around the county, and other organizations, because we want to prevent the violence. We want to make sure we take a proactive approach towards getting the youth involved in other activities with organizations, not just our own. We volunteer at family events geared towards prevention, and what we hope is that more of our council members will be there at our events. Create more activities for the older youth, and I think that's something that I've been discussing with recreational organizations, is we need to think about those kids that are not making the teams at the high school level, because it's very competitive. Many of these high school kids play the sport year-round. Their parents can afford to do travel ball. Therefore, when tryouts come out, the coaches are picking the best out there. And I don't blame them, because that's what we want to do. We want to win. But we often forget about those that just need an activity to do after. And I don't think that we're doing enough to keep them engaged after hours. I see a lot of kids out in the streets, at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and maybe it's because they don't have an activity that keeps them busy. So once they're done with school, they just go out to the street. But maybe we can keep them busy with something around the community. We also need to engage our youth and their parents in gang affiliation educational workshops. I know that the Imperial County Gang Intelligence Coalition has been working on this. We have been partnering up with them in presenting to parents, but I think that sometimes we don't want to realize or recognize that we have a problem, and we actually do. We have a huge problem. I think if we didn't have a problem, an innocent child like my own wouldn't be absent in our community. So one of the things we can also do is become informed of the issues that our youth is facing. Sometimes we're so disconnected from our youth that we don't realize what are their needs or their current problems. I get to see it because I'm a teacher and I read their journals, and I get to see their demeanor when they come in through that door every morning or when they don't come in through that door. Our current partners are CASA, IBC, Associated Student Body, Del Taco, and Jose. IBC, we've partnered up with Dr. Jaime and his board, and they've actually passed a resolution in support of MAG Coalition. They were one of the first. And Tradición, and what we want to see is your logo there as a partner in the prevention of gang affiliation, gang violence, and everything else that's associated with gang activity. I think a key partner that we have is the Imperial County Gang Intelligence Coalition, where most law enforcement agencies have a representative, and they meet and they share this information, and then they're able to target and do the sweeps with the strike team. So why should you assist us and partner up with MAG Coalition? It's because you want your children, your grandchildren, the students and constituents of your community to celebrate more years of life. This is our son when he was a baby, as a toddler. Our family parties, the milestone birthdays, such as the Sweet 16 we did for our son, and I thank God every day that we did do it. Sometimes I think you want a Sweet 16, and he said yes, and only God knew why. He wanted a Sweet 16. His sister had a quinceañera, so we had one for him, and I'm glad. Something crazy that I did 3 years ago was on December 17th. I made him leave his basketball game, or not leave, but miss his basketball game so we can drive to Palm Desert and take these pictures at Live Touch, because I didn't like the first ones that they took at Brawley Union High School. And I received these pictures a day after he had passed. And I thank God, because my goal was to have both of my kids in cap and gowns and, you know, realize that they both received a high school diploma. Unfortunately, he didn't get to receive his high school diploma. And I'm not going to be able to see him get married. Thankfully, I saw him come out in a lot of quinceañeras. As you saw in the video, he's dancing away. He was the life of the party every time. And lately, we've had many of his cousins have their children. You know, they're young, but they started having children. And I know I'm not going to be able to see my grandchildren from him. And we don't want your constituents to have their children's last birthday be at 17 years old, which is the one that you see here. And you don't want to have to attend another funeral for a young man like our son. You don't want to see his teammates have to carry his casket onto the field where they played so many Friday Night Lights, or see an empty chair at graduations, or have to gather everyone from the county for a community candlelight vigil over an unfortunate event. We've done this every year ever since, and for the first time we're coming to El Centro on January 6th. We are going to be walking from the place where he was murdered, which is on 273 7th Street, approximately in that area. And we'll be walking down Main Street up to the courthouse, which is kind of ironic that 4 blocks away from Justice, our son lost his life. So what can you do as a council today to support MAC Coalition? I'm glad that you guys invited us or accepted our request to present this information to you. But what we would like to see is a formal partnership with you. And we would like to have you guys promote our events, you know, and not just in your community, in your city of El Centro circles, but also in your professional social circles. And maybe even assist with fundraising. I know that one of the topics that came up last time is perhaps you guys, as the city of El Centro, could build a team for the 7.3K. And I think that would definitely call out the challenge that the city of Imperial did from Mayor. I said, tell everybody to join us over there, because we're all going to be there. So hopefully other city councils will follow in suit. You could also co-host a MAC Coalition event that we have already mentioned and help us gather more support for the change in our community, especially in the El Centro community where my son lost his life. So today, I hope that you think about making a motion to take action within your council to become a partner, but also we had requested for the city council to have a proclamation for January 6th to be the Anti-Gang Awareness Day during our walk, in hopes that more city councils and even our county of supervisors, which we will present to on the 22nd, will start looking at this and hopefully work on some additional things that we can do to help our youth. Oops. So you can also volunteer with us. I found my place. And as I mentioned, oh gosh. Next. So all of the upcoming events we've already mentioned, and we hope that you consider this. I thank you for your already action item on supporting our event, our vigil, and as well as our walk, our run walk on the 9th. What we hope is that you consider a partnership, and you also consider doing a proclamation of Anti-Gang Awareness Day, January 6th in the city of El Centro. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the council or any questions, Mr. Silva?
No, you know, I think we've mentioned before, my admiration for you, where you took some event that was so tragic and painful and turned that around to positive action for the community. From my definitely be joining you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate your passion, and this is a classic example where you can turn a tragedy into increased awareness. And so I've always appreciated the support that you've shown, not only to foster children, but to our community. So I'm grateful to be partnering up with an organization such as yourself. I also will be joining the event in January. So, and I want to recognize our council too for already partnering and providing some sort of monetary support, but also recognizing the in-kind support that our chief is providing, and you know, ensuring some of the traffic and some of the logistics behind that. So I'm glad that our council has made that decision, and we're heading in the right direction as far as a partnership. So thank you for coming here tonight.
Your courage is inspirational. I can't even imagine what it would be like to sustain and to cope with the tragedy. I serve on the Juvenile Justice Commission, and I really try to put into action every day. How can we connect our community with our most precious resource, which is our young people? And I'm equally challenged to figure out, how do we touch the hearts of parents who bring those young people in, and support the parents who maybe don't have the resources to fully comprehend and understand how to make good choices and how to make the right choices. You are truly heroic in your efforts, and we appreciate what you're doing for all of the communities throughout the valley. And you do have our pledge of support. And Godspeed to you.
Garcia?
I think it's absolutely commendable what you're doing. I've known you for some time, and what you and Martine and your family have done to cope with this horrific event, to basically dedicate all your time and effort into trying to make sure that another family doesn't have to go through this, and reaching out to the community, not just for preventing gang affiliation or activity, but also, like Alex said, helping out with foster children. It's just completely wonderful what your organization stands for and what you've done in this brief time. And it's a shame the event that had to occur in order for your family to come out and do all this. But it's great that your family is having such an impact on other kids' lives, and especially around the county. I mean, I've seen you personally at events in almost every city in this county. So it's great to have that type of dedication, and absolutely courageous what you and your husband have done. So I would pledge my support for you completely, and I will see you there on January 6th. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a credit to your son's name, the traction that your coalition has gained throughout the Imperial County, and everybody knows the MAG Coalition and the efforts that you and your family put forth. Certainly commendable, and hopefully, we can start ridding not only El Centro, but our entire community of Imperial County of gang activity. I will be there also on January 6th, and I know I've already spoken to staff, and we are working on a proclamation that will be presented to you and the coalition at that event. So we definitely look forward to it. I think this council has taken a stand that we will be with you, not behind you, but beside you in your efforts. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. And I was trying to be really quick. I usually flow really easy, and I don't usually get emotional, but it's a difficult place to come. But I know I have faith in this council, and I know many of you personally, and I know that you guys believe in what we're doing, and it's just the beginning. And I just want to thank you for that, for taking that first step and I'll see you guys on January 6th, and I appreciate your time. And yes, we've been working with Chief Madueño, and we look forward to doing this for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta hurry to get going.
Next, we have a presentation by El Centro Police Department, Commander Alvaro Alvarez with the multicam uniforms.
Well, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Today, I want to talk to you guys about a transition that we have coming up, and it has to do with the uniforms that our tactical team uses. So traditionally, our uniforms, or when our team was formed, the need arose for a uniform that was more rugged, more comfortable, something where they can carry out the type of work that needs to be done by a tactical team. And that has been traditionally a dark blue uniform, very similar to the shade that I have now, and all black gear. And you guys can see a picture up there. Although that's one of our canine handlers, the gear is virtually identical of what they carry. And so again, while it served its purpose, the original intent was it's very similar to what we wear, keep police easily recognizable. So as time goes on, we noticed that there were certain challenges with the uniform, and we needed to evolve again with everything else that we do. So the issue is that it doesn't blend well with any environment. You guys can see the dark blue uniform up on the screen. It's against a brick, and lower you could see just the gray, and it just really sticks out. And it sticks out against anything that you're up against. It's just a solid dark blue pattern. Now the issue is our tactical team, one of the primary tactics that are used is called a surround and call out. For our guys to go into a home is really a last resort. So everything that we do is really to avoid that, and we have several different techniques we use. But while our team is waiting, while it's on hold and we're using these tactics, we have to have personnel around wherever we are, and that's called the perimeter. So when we put our people in those situations, a lot of times there's not optimal cover and concealment there, and that exposes our personnel to unnecessary risk. Again, that dark blue uniform just makes them really stick out like a sore thumb. Something else, the dark blue uniform makes it it's more difficult to identify where the source of an injury is, just because, again, in case of some sort of traumatic injury, you can't really identify the blood quickly with the dark blue uniform. And then in our environment, with the heat that we have, a dark color isn't exactly conducive to what we need to do. So what we want to do is go to a new uniform. In fact, we're in the process. And I have it here. It's a patterned uniform, and this one is specifically multicam. And the advantage, multicam is actually a trademarked pattern from a company that's licensed to all the different manufacturers that make uniforms. The advantage of that is it doesn't really matter what manufacturer we go with. We know that the uniform we get, that the gear we get is going to match the exact color palette. It is a mission-specific uniform, which I'll go into more in a little more detail a little bit later, and it really has several advantages for us. The advantages of it is primarily, and the whole real push for this is the increased safety. Out there you can see the picture, and you can see the two different people, and you can see the difference in those uniforms. On the picture of the right, I had to make sure that I had circled it, because you can see how easy it is for multicam, for this different color palette, to really break up the pattern. Something that came up recently was a tragedy that happened in San Bernardino. And although I couldn't find the footage, there's aerial footage that shows a team that has this same color palette. And you can see how this color palette helps break up the pattern even against asphalt. So while we are traditionally in an urban environment, the shrubbery, the color palette that we have around the neighborhood, this type of uniform will definitely help with it. And I'll pass it on so you guys can see a little bit closer what I'm talking about. So again, the primary benefit will be that it will aid in concealment as our people are holding perimeter. What we're going to do to ensure that we are still clearly identifiable police is the I show here is actually the patch that's going to go in front of the gear and in the back of the gear. Now, part of the issue is, well, if they're wearing this patch, it kind of negates the benefits of it. Well, these patches are actually on Velcro. So most of our personnel do not really need to have this at all times, but we are a small team. And as our personnel change from role to role, it's not really feasible, or it doesn't really help us to have our personnel go back and change and wear something that's going to help them out. The idea is we're going to have our people clearly identifiable on the gear. with a patch. It's going to be a large patch front and back that clearly says police. If they have the need to hold one of those positions where concealment is more important, they can take that patch off because it's Velcro. Additional advantages, just like I mentioned, it's certain job assignments, like our snipers have had this uniform already for a couple of years. And the idea is our team transitions seamlessly from position to position without the need to look for additional gear. The lighter color palette definitely works better with our warmer environment. And again, the lighter color palette also makes it easier for us to identify any type of injury should anything like that happen. So the transition to our uniform, again, I want to specify that this is mission specific. This will only be used during missions and training. Our personnel from day to day for presentations and like that are going to be dressed the way I am now. Our traditional Class B uniform, what easily identifies us as traditional law enforcement. When the need arises for a specific tactical situation, that's when we're going to use this uniform. So as we progressed with this and we were engaging in the idea, we reached out to our public safety task force and actually a couple different community members to get their input as to what they thought about this transition. And really the key factor came back in. What is going to keep our personnel safer? And hands down, it comes down to switching over from a solid uniform and over to some sort of pattern that will help us. We plan to have a media outreach campaign where we're going to be able to show the differences, show the advantages, and then through our community events such as Coffee with a Cop, which we have coming up tomorrow, we are able to engage the community and kind of talk to them in reference to our motivations and the advantages that switching over to a uniform like this will hold for our team. As far as impacts, fiscally, it's not going to be any type of impact. We secured funding for new gear for our personnel for this fiscal year because the gear that they have is in need of replacement. So all we're holding off is once we're ready to move forward, the gear is going to be ordered with this new pattern. And as far as the community, we do have a planned media campaign that's going to help educate the community in reference to our benefits and the motivation for this transition. You guys have any questions?
Mr. Garcia?
No.
Ms. Swanger?
Thank you.
You know, just real briefly, if I may, I wanted to really thank our chief and Commander Alvaro for going above and beyond when it comes to the implementation of a campaign such as this. And this is actually a product of our public safety task force as well, where we're able to use it as a sounding board in terms of, you know, what the community impact may be. And they've done an excellent job in just kind of surveying our community and saying, well, how would you feel if we went with this particular pattern? You know, there was some concerns, well, not in our community, but there's been concerns in other locations where they think we're militarizing our police force. And Commander Alvaro actually, you know, did do some surveying of the community, and that was not the opinion of our community. So, I mean, this is a classic example where our executive team from our police department is just kind of going above and beyond when it comes to reaching out to our community. I think this is a great investment, very supportive of it, and most importantly, supportive of how you guys approached our community with this. And I think just from a safety standpoint, I think it's something that we should consider, and I appreciate you coming before the council and sharing that with us and sharing it with our community.
Yeah, same thing. I was going to mention that I think prior to San Bernardino, I would, you know, when you watch the national media, you would hear people criticizing and complaining about the so-called militarization of police departments. And now after San Bernardino, we also saw how essential having to have the capacity to deal with the terrorists as we did and the equipment that is necessary, how essential that is. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I know that this is going to increase the safety of our officers, the safety of our community.
One quick comment. Yeah, go ahead. And I just wanted to add, and I don't know if you can confirm this, but there's a uniform for our canine as well, right? That would have the same pattern, or did I hear that, or?
That's something that we're entertaining right now.
So our Bico and Tico would possibly have the same?
That gear is available. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just want to say, you know, in listening to the council, I think that there was a sentiment that militarizing of police departments was something that, unfortunately, nationwide was maybe frowned upon. But, you know, I was recently interviewed right after the San Bernardino shooting about what we're doing as a as a city and specifically as our police department in addressing and being prepared for a potential incident like San Bernardino. And I got to tell you, I think that this is right on point. I think the safety of our officers, I think the safety of our citizens is much more important than a national sentiment of militarizing police departments. I mean, if you saw when they stopped the vehicle in San Bernardino, they had the armored vehicles that made that stop that also protected those officers against two individuals that had AR-15s. You know, it is, unfortunately, we have a war zone going on, you know, throughout this country, and I'm all for giving our law enforcement everything they need to keep me safe and my family and the citizens of El Centro. So I appreciate the presentation. I think you have the support of this council in moving forward, and you and the chief and the rest of our men and women in law enforcement have done a great job in keeping our city safe, and we're fully supportive of anything we can do to give you the tools to continue that task. So thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have consent. I've had a request to pull item number 7 and item number 10 for discussion. Is there a motion to approve items 3 through 6, 8, 9, and 11?
So moved. Oh, wait,
Yeah, I know.
pop up.
I like the Christmas
I
scene
do.
thing,
I
too.
miss the Space Needle, but I like the,
We are in the Christmas season. We have a motion by Walker, second by Garcia. Please ballot.
Maybe I have problems with this one. This doesn't work?
You have to use the
I have
mouse.
to use a mouse? That puts me at a disadvantage when I make a motion for something.
You have to be quicker.
Yeah.
Motion passes 5-0. Item number 7, Ms. Walker?
yes, I asked that item number 7 be pulled and had an opportunity to speak with Chief Medueno very briefly. The two items that I was hoping that the chief could address with regard to this item, number 1 is how it will be coordinated with bike giveaways that are already in place. For example, we know that the Imperial County Probation Department has a bike giveaway on Friday. And also, it just seems like every time I pick up the newspaper, there's another article about several bicycles that have been stolen, usually out of backyards. A lot of them sound like they're very expensive bikes or mountain bikes, or the worst are the kids' bikes that are getting stolen. So I'm wondering if there's some proactive way we can get the word out to, invest in a lock or something. I know you've been extraordinarily proactive with regard to public campaigns, public education campaigns. So if you could address those two items, please.
So first, good evening, Mayor and council members. As far as the bicycle giveaway, each year we take in anywhere from 50 to 100 bicycles that we are unable to return to the rightful owner for a variety of reasons. Many of them have the serial numbers filed off, repainted. The owners don't even recognize the bicycles anymore. So what we've done for several years is we partnered with Sentinel State Prison, where they had funding where the inmates would refurbish bicycles. So it was a win-win. We would donate upwards of 80 bicycles a year. They would refurbish it. They would partner with the probation department, Kiwanis, and the El Centro Police Department, and donate the bicycles to needy children countywide. I believe this is the second year now that because of state funding, the prisons can no longer refurbish bicycles. So they in effect told us, thank you, but we cannot accept your bicycles anymore. We were immediately faced with bicycles that we had to get rid of. And years past, prior to the partnership with the prison, we would have auctions. And we could do that. However, coincidentally, as the prison was telling me this, because I sit on their Citizens Advisory Council as the mayor and currently Councilmember Cardenas, I was approached by our Police Officers Association asking if we could donate bicycles to them. I was also contacted by members of the Imperial Valley Velo Club, coincidentally asking if we could help with bicycles. So last year we came before council to allow us to donate bicycles to these groups who have told us that their intentions are to refurbish the bicycles and again donate it through their contacts to needy children. So that's that issue. I'm in contact with Ken Phillips at the prison. I will ask him if he's interested. or what they've done, this is the second year where they've raised funds to purchase brand-new bicycles, just because they have no one else to fix them. And they do have some help in assembling training wheels and whatnot on the smaller bicycles. And so both these groups, I trust, will continue to address those needs. The thefts of bicycles is an ongoing heartache for us. It hit us close to home. I was talking to Detective Meneses, the current POA president, at the tree lighting ceremony recently. They were going to award 3 bicycles. They had an essay contest at the high schools asking children to talk about how can we improve relations with the police department and the community. They had 3 bicycles ready. They were stored at our Pell Center, and they were stolen. So it's ironic. So our bicycles were stolen. The Police Officers Association went to Walmart to contact them about getting bicycles, and the manager there, I don't recall his name, donated bicycles to our Police Officers Association. They were donated, or they were awarded to 3 lucky winners at the tree lighting ceremony. As to what we're doing, we do continue to use our social media outlets to encourage people to lock up their property. We have pamphlets that we create. I believe council has seen those that we distribute to our officers, our community service officers, who are taking the bulk of those reports, and ask them to give it to people so that if they are victimized, it's a one-time thing. They're not victimized again. We count on the media. If you do read in the newspaper, a word that comes up a lot is unlocked or unsecured. So, I mean, we need the community's help. We need people to lock things up, close their garage doors, don't leave your car parked in the driveway with items in clear, plain view. It would make our job a little easier. So we'll continue to encourage people to lock up their property, secured. It's not a small town, you know, that you can leave that stuff unsecured, so.
Have we ever thought of doing a television commercial, like, don't do this, and then just giving people three ideas? Lock your car,
I
secure
guess we
your
can talk
bike,
to
and-
Spectrum to see if they can help us out, so.
Public service announcement type.
Yeah,
Public service.
because
announcement.
I know we hear it on the radio, we read it in the paper all the time, but I can't remember the last time we had, you know, El Centro PD starring in their own commercial, but.
And I think every agency, as far as radio and TV, they have certain allotment of time that they have to provide for public service announcements. So
Be a star.
Not me, no.
Lock it or walk it. I don't know.
Lock it or lose it.
Yeah, we'll come up with something, so.
Okay.
It is just education. I think our citizens need to understand that they can't leave things unsecured anywhere. There's plenty of people willing to take it if they don't, so.
yeah, unfortunately.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you very
Chief.
much,
Any other
Chief.
questions from council? Seeing none, we have a motion by Walker, second by Cardenas. Please ballot.
Is that both or just?
No, just item number 7. Passes 5-0. Item number 10 was pulled by our city attorney.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, once we discovered that we don't have a written agreement with Mr. Morita to present or to provide services to the Personnel Appeals Board, we went and got it. We wanted to get it on the agenda as quickly as we possibly could. So I put it on the agenda and sent it to Mr. Morita contemporaneously. He had a few comments because he didn't get to review it, the agreement, before it ended up on the agenda. With respect to paragraph 3, he has indicated that his hourly rate will be $200 per hour, not $150 per hour. And so we would need to amend the legal services agreement to reflect that change. And then with respect to paragraph 4, which is the insurance paragraph, Mr. Morita has represented that he does not have any employees, so we will not need to have any workers' compensation requirements in the agreement, but what we will ask him to do is execute a certification confirming that he has no employees.
Could I make a recommendation with regard to paragraph 4 rather than going that route? What I've seen in other contracts is that should he have employees in the future, should a need arise for him to have or be mandated to have workers' compensation insurance, that he would in fact have it in place.
Okay, so you don't want him to execute the certification that says he currently doesn't have employees?
Well,
Because we have that prepared for other contracts, for other sole practitioners that we have contracts with.
But then what happens if he hires employees? Then,
Well-
then the contract is silent as to whether or not he has an obligation to have workers' compensation insurance.
Okay.
So if we modify the language so that it reads that if applicable, he's responsible for obtaining statutorily required workers' compensation insurance, then he can right now sign the certificate or whatever that says he doesn't have any employees. But the point in time he does have an employee where he would need to have workers' compensation, he has to get that certificate to us. He's mandated to have that or required to have it pursuant to the agreement.
I'll modify the language accordingly, and the certificate that he will be signing says exactly that.
Okay.
As of right now, you're certifying that you don't have an employee. The minute you get one, you need to get us
Right.
the appropriate
And
workers'
then
comp
that way,
insurance.
I would say that then we don't have to modify the agreement.
Okay.
Okay?
And then the other request that he has made is that we reduce the automobile liability insurance from $1 million per event and in the aggregate to $250,000 per event, $500 in the aggregate.
Can I ask if that's a standard practice that we're using currently with our contracted attorneys?
This is the first time that I have been asked to reduce it from the $1 million.
Then I would object to any modification to that language. I just don't understand why we would want to reduce it if we haven't practiced that in the past.
No, this is our standard agreement that we use with outside counsel, and it has the $1 million requirement for automobile liability.
And we verified that all of the attorneys that we currently have under contract have provided certificates of insurance reflecting that coverage. Have we verified that those are the limits?
Whatever is required per the contract, they do carry that amount.
We only have
That
the
verified,
one right now,
yes.
with, I guess, Ryan, right?
But, and that's my question, if we have a certificate of insurance that reflects these in levels.
Yes, okay.
I'm sorry, the response was yes, that we do have a certificate.
Yes, what is required in the agreement is what we have on file for each of the
For $1 million?
attorneys.
Okay, all right. Other questions? Do you have more, Ms. Becker?
No,
No?
those were just the changes that we're requesting.
The only other thing that I would, sometimes it's not advantageous to list city employees by name unless there's a specific reason. So I'm wondering why we include the HR director's name as well as title.
I can take that out.
Where'd you see that?
That's
Cheryl?
in paragraph
Paragraph
5.
5. Oh,
So what
yeah,
if we
I
give
see it.
Terry a new title or something else? I mean, then that paragraph's out the window.
Okay. Mr. Garcia, any questions?
No questions.
Noah?
I'll make a motion as modified by Ms. Walker
With the,
with the provision of the maintaining the liability insurance, and maintaining the verbiage on the workers' comp, if applicable.
so it's,
And then changing the hourly rate?
so accepting the increase in the hourly rate, but maintain the liability
At $1 million.
at $1 million. And was there any other items, Ms. Becker?
No.
Okay, so those are the two items that were added or asked for modification. The motion is to accept the $200 an hour, but deny the modification on the insurance. There's a motion by Silva. Is there a second? Second by Walker. Any further discussion? Please ballot. Motion passes 5-0. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Okay, moving on to public hearings. Item number 12, amendment to conditions of approval for Town Center Village vesting tentative subdivision map, presentation by Norma Villacana.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. The item before you is a request by YK America to change one of the conditions of approval for the Town Center Village project. As you recall, the project, currently it's under construction. The ultimate goal is to complete 220 units within that site. Right now, they're under phase one. One of the requirements under the conditions of approval was that prior to the recordation of the final map, the lighting and landscaping maintenance district shall be assessed and shall be final. Currently we are under in the progress of completing that lighting and maintenance assessment district. Weldon is helping us with that endeavor. However, it is crucial that YK America wants to finalize the map, and that's an item on your agenda for tonight. So staff has reviewed the request, and we have no issues regarding granting that request. Instead of having the lighting and landscaping maintenance district finalized, established prior to the recordation of the final map, it would change to, it would be required to be established prior to the starting of phase two, which will probably be during the first quarter of next year.
I'm sorry, Ms. Villacana, prior to the starting of phase two? This says prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
I'm sorry, yes, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So whenever phase two starts, prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy, of phase two, it would be prior to the completion of phase two.
Can we take a look at the language on page 202 of our agenda packet, I think? Page 12 of this agenda, or item number 12. I'm just a little confused about the timing.
Yeah, at the beginning, let me back
I'm
up a
sorry.
little bit.
Okay, why don't we have you finish your,
Yeah, okay.
I apologize.
Yes, the request that basically to delay the establishment of the lighting and maintenance district. So what we did, staff went back and reviewed, okay, when is a feasible time to require this district to be established? And it was after reviewing the project, it was determined that it would be feasible to require the establishment of the district prior to the issuance of occupancy under phase two. So that's how the condition is being proposed to be changed prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for any building. So right now, the way YK is developing the project, they're pulling permits by building. So each building might have 10 units, 12 units, another building. So prior to the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy under phase two, that lighting and landscaping district must be established.
Question, Norma? Mr. Silva?
Norma, so what constitutes phase one? And
If you look under page 205 of your agenda report, those are the conditions of approval. Phase one will consist of 88 units, also the community center and other amenities. Now, phase two would be the development of lot two, which will include 9 three-story apartment buildings for a total of 72 units.
so when phase one is completed and the 88 units are done, people are going to begin to move in, correct?
That's correct.
And not having a landscaping district finalized, what does that represent to us or to the tenants of phase one development?
Well, if you keep in mind that the landscaping for the project will not be finalized until the end of the project, because right now, there's no reason to finalize the landscaping because, it could
it's going to be damaged or, so the idea is that by the time phase 3 is completed, all the landscaping will be put in place. So that's when the city will basically take it over and maintain the landscaping. In the meantime, it would be maintained by the developer.
What happens if phase 3 or phase 2 doesn't happen?
We were assured, and that's one of the questions that was brought up, and we have a representative from YK America here. This is more of a financing decision through the banks.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And I think that we're all appreciative of the fact, and we do have an outstanding track record and relationship with YK America. I think we just have to be mindful that because this is a phased project and we are allowing for a modification that could, under some scenario, result in that landscaping and lighting maintenance assessment district not being established for some reason.
Well, the developer, if I may, the developer has already paid for the consultant work. Wilden is doing the work to establish the district. So once that work is completed, the district will be established. It could even be established during phase 1, but at this time, because of the urgency to record the final map, it was, so either way, the district will be established because it's already in place. It's already.
Well, when are we expecting the phase 1 buildings to be occupied?
I understand by the early part of this year. Maybe I'll let.
Because I guess that's the concern that I have. If we tied it to phase 1 occupancy, then I think that we have a really great assurance, because we can look out there and see that those are just about ready to go. Delaying this until phase 2, especially when you said that perhaps the district can be in its formation stage by first quarter 2016.
And I don't think, and I don't want to speak on behalf of YK America, but I don't see a problem with tying it to the completion of phase 1, because the main idea is to get the final map recorded, and, but I don't want to speak on behalf of.
I think, I'm getting the feel, I think that the council would be more comfortable in tying it to the certificate of occupancy on phase 1.
Okay.
That way we know that the tenants that are moving into that first phase have something tangible that's
Okay.
there. If it doesn't affect the overall project, but allows YK America to record their map, then maybe there's not an objection, and maybe we could hear from YK on just that.
And just for clarification, would that be a certificate of occupancy for the first building or the last building of phase 1? There's different buildings under phase 1.
11 of phase 1, right? 11 buildings in phase 1.
Can we hear from what they see the
Do you want to open the public hearing at this time, Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to open the public hearing at this time?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this is a public hearing, so yes, open. Public hearing is open. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thank you, Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Martin Su, representing YK America. The questions for the lighting and landscape maintenance district. The consultant Wilden is working on basically putting a packet together, and that's going to be presented in front of the council in a later time. So there's no motions or any environment that, or any condition that will actually stop this from proceeding forward. And the assessment basically in the form of tax. And so as long as we are, the landowner basically was still on hooks for paying those taxes. And one of the issues that we have or we're facing is in the current financial market, the lending institutions are pretty tough. And so we came up with enough funding to start phase 1, which has total of 84 units right now. And so the kind of a borrowing loan to value. It's probably about 40-60%, and sometimes 50-50. And so it was important for us, in order to secure the phase 2 portion of the construction loan, we have to get the map finalized. And so, however, if we tie the occupancy condition to phase 1, then that means I could potentially have all the project on the phase 1 done in March, but I can't have anybody moving.
So tying it to phase 1 won't work for you then, what you're saying?
I mean, unless we have a guarantee from Wilden, the consultant that's working on the lighting and maintenance district, that it can be done before then.
Can we tie it to phase 1? Would you be comfortable to tying it to phase 1 and putting feet to the fire for the consultant to have it in place? And then if it turns out that the consultant cannot deliver timely, that we revisit?
Sure, yeah.
Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, all right.
Council? Any other questions, Mr. Silva? Cardenas?
Just in regards to, I know, it appears that the planning commission is, I read the draft resolution and they're supportive of the recommendation. Now, was there any other discussion that came out of that, or concerns, or was it even unanimous that you remember as far as the recommendation?
No, as I recall, there were no concerns or no discussions about the proposed amendment.
Okay. Ms. Walker? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Silva.
How viable is it to get the consultant?
I can't really push the consultants. It's kind of out of our hands.
If I may, we do have a draft report that's being reviewed by staff from Wilden. So they're basically waiting for our comments. And so they're almost to the final stage. It's just being reviewed by staff.
Well, and because it's a single owner, I would think that it would make this process very, very easy to wrap up. I mean, we're not talking reinventing the wheel here, so.
Good evening, Council. Just to clarify on the process of, for the LLMD, we do have the report that's being reviewed, probably be presented to Council in one of the meetings in January for your consideration. That starts a 45-day clock to get votes from the parcels around there to get on the line. So we're talking about maybe in March for it to be finalized. The LLMD doesn't just include this parcel, it also includes Target, Lowe's, University of Phoenix, everybody, because everybody's a contributor to the detention basin for stormwater. However, YK America is a majority owner, so we don't see major issues of passing this LLMD. So just wanted to make you aware of the timing. So we're looking sometime in March, and I'm not sure when they're going to be done with their certificates of occupancy for phase 1.
So we're not meeting in we're not meeting the first meeting in January, so we'd be meeting on 22nd. So the 45 days would start then.
Correct.
Mr. Sue, understanding that would be
19th, sorry.
19th, understanding that the final document would be ready, looks like probably mid-March. What does that do for your project as far as, are you going to be in completion by then and be ready to be occupied?
We're cracking the whip out there, and we just signed the management contract with a San Diego firm to come in to manage the property. And so we're hoping on March, actually we told them February, but we're hoping March everything will be done. Just as a consideration, since we have 7 apartment buildings, perhaps we can tie it into the last building. That way we can start the pre-leasing process.
Is it 7 or 11? I thought I saw
7. When the project was first submitted, it was a different number. It was 3-story, and we reduced it down to 2-story. And so there are actually a total of 20 buildings. Each phase has 7 buildings. The last phase has 6 buildings. Each building has 12 units.
And they're all 2-story?
Yes.
Okay, and what about the community center, swimming pool, jogging trail?
That has to
lot?
be done.
And
The
that will
first
be
phase,
done
yes.
as
For
part of the first phase?
Yes.
At the same time that folks are going to start moving into the
Yes.
apartments?
And it's pretty much following the phasing of the project is following the configuration of the parcel map.
Okay.
So there are 3 pieces, so each piece kind of is what, that's why we kind of had to parcelize it that way, so as the construction loan takes place, they don't take the entire property per se, so.
So Ms. Villacana, if we were to modify the language, then it would be prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the what building included in phase 1?
7th.
For the step,
Seventh.
is,
7th or
Seventh.
final building of
yeah,
phase 1.
there's, okay. Is that what you want? Okay.
Yeah.
We can change that. We can certainly change that.
Mr. Curtis?
That,
Good.
yeah.
Mr. Garcia, any questions? Okay, so look for a motion.
You got to close the.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this? Seeing none, close public comments and move, or public hearing and come back to council. Any last comments? Seeing none, look for approval of resolution 15-127,
127?
As modified.
as modified. A resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving an amendment to the Town Center Village vesting tentative subdivision map. I have a motion by Walker, second by Silva. Please ballot. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sue. Next item, item number 13, discussion and necessary action for the approval of Town Center Village Apartments final map. Presentation by Mr. Terry Hagan.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. This shows the, an aerial with the 5 lots, a dedication of 10th Street, and a remainder parcel. The map complies with all the conditions of approval. Developers completed off-site improvements, and he's posted a 10% bond for a 1-year warranty. These are photos from left, upper left, looking north on 10th Street, looking east on Bradshaw. You can see left half of the street has been completed. And looking north from Bradshaw, you can see the entire construction site. Engineering staff is working with the developer for final cleanup, punch list items. And to open Bradshaw, Bradshaw should be open by the end of the year. Developers requested that the 10th Street remain closed during construction for safety reasons. And the first phase of apartments, as you previously heard, should be available in March. Another view of the map. Staff recommends approval and recordation of the final map. Any questions?
Council? Mr. Garcia?
No questions.
Ms. Walker? Cardenas?
Thank you.
Questions for Silva? Okay, seeing none, look to adopt resolution
128?
15-128, a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving the final map for the Town Center Village Apartments subdivision. Motion by Cardenas, second by Walker. Please ballot. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Moving on to item number 14, discussion and any necessary action regarding health insurance for former elective members of the City Council. Presentation by our Director of Human Resources, Ms. Terry Brownlee. I think we had a, yeah.
Yes, you should have a
We have a
PowerPoint.
little PowerPoint thing. I think was on here. Yeah. Ms. Brownlee?
Okay, what I have before you here is a change per the Government Code 53201 for health insurance for former elective council members. A little bit of history on that. Resolution 92-59 allowed, for the continuation of health insurance for former elected members as follows. If they served in office after January 1, 1981, and whose total service at that time of termination of service is not less than 12 years, or those who have completed one or more terms of office but less than 12 years and who agree to and do pay the full cost of the health insurance. Resolution 94-4 provided continuation of the health insurance with the city paying the full cost of the premiums at that time.
Then Government Code actually came into effect, 53201 came into effect in 1995. But the resolution number 05-127 wasn't changed until 2005. And at that time, it only affected the current elected members of the council. The change there also included that the premiums to be paid in the manner of the most generous schedule of benefits being received by any non-safety employee group for those first elected after 1995. So before you, I have a resolution to comply with Government Code 53201. The change there will be for former members of the city councils. The city shall now provide those benefits to any person first elected to a term of office that begins on or after January 1, 1995, unless the recipient participates on a self-pay basis, as provided in Subdivision B. And Subdivision B states, the legislative body of a local agency may also provide the continuation of any health and welfare benefits for the benefit of former elected members of the legislative body who agree to and do pay the full cost of the health and welfare benefits. I know there's been some confusion.
Probably, just a quick question. The self-pay basis, would that be, in essence, like a COBRA type plan? Is that what that is?
It'll be the full cost, yes,
Okay.
like if you were to continue with COBRA.
Okay.
And that's been part of the confusion because part of the Government Code is written, it says self-pay, and another part says full cost in the same law. And the definition as defined in the medical dictionary for self-pay basis is a term for a person who pays out of pocket, and out of pocket for a health-related service in absence of insurance to cover the medical or surgical procedure performed. So this change in the resolution, it will not affect any of the former elective members that are currently enrolled in our health insurance as they were elected prior to 1995. Only those elected after 1995 that are no longer on the council.
So I've had an opportunity to talk with Ms. Brownlee and with the city attorney. This is without a doubt one of the most poorly written government code sections that I think I've ever read. It's very, very confusing, and the modifications or revisions that have been made to this specific code section, I think, create more confusion than anything else. The issue that I have, and I think I finally clarified it in my brain, there have been modifications. Used to be that if you served 12 years as an elected member of the city council and then stopped, retired, 12 years, and then stepped off, you were entitled to continue to participate in the health insurance program at whatever you were paying at the time. So to the extent we were paying a portion and the city would continue to pick up the rest, correct? Then, and then if you served less than 12 years, you could still get insurance, but you had to pay the full cost. Does that make sense? So there's those two categories. Then they changed the rules and said, if you're no longer a city council member, regardless of the number of years that you've served, you can participate in the health insurance plan, but you have to pay the full cost.
Yes.
Correct? I only had to read this government code section about 15 times to understand that that's what it says. My concern now, though, is that what we've done with the resolution, with our resolution, has made it a little more confusing. And so I'm wondering is, in lieu of saying, in paragraph 4, we say that the provisions of the two prior resolutions, or the one prior resolution that are not inconsistent shall continue. Why don't we just come up with one resolution that restates what the government code section provides with regard to health insurance benefits for both current members and former members of the city council? Because when I read through the new resolution, I don't see anything in here that talks about health insurance benefits being entitled, or city council members being entitled to health insurance benefits, because that's in the prior resolution. So now to get the full course and scope of that particular topic, you have to refer to multiple resolutions. And wouldn't it be simpler to just say we are rescinding both Resolution 05127 and Resolution 9259 and restate it all in a new resolution that talks about entitlement of current city council members to health insurance benefits on a same pay rate as employees, and elective members being entitled, as long as you pay the full cost.
We can do that. We can.
I thought, within the resolution, the first reference to 201 does that.
This says for former members.
Shall not provide
The first-
benefits to any person first elected to a term of office that begins on or after.
Where are you reading? I'm looking at the current resolution that's up for consideration.
This resolution is only for former elected members. Yeah, but we
I
can
think-
combine the
I think
two.
it just would make more sense if we went with one resolution, rescinded the two prior ones.
We can do that.
In essence, cleaning it up.
We can do
Maybe
that.
even to Councilmember Walker's point, I'm sure that other cities are facing similar situations. I mean, is there something, either going, maybe even reaching out to the California League of Cities and asking them for a recommendation just to ensure that there's less confusion in the language, or is there maybe some resources out there, Ms. Brownlee, that we
Yeah,
can look
the
at?
League of Cities already put out a report, and it was in there doing what we're doing,
Okay.
explaining that this is self-pay basis means paying the full cost.
So this is actually coming
Right.
down from the California League of Cities saying potentially this is what the resolution should look like.
Right, and we've also we went out to an outside attorney to get a second opinion
Because
to make sure we were reinterpreting it correctly.
Because
and
the other question that I had is that language that talks about self-pay basis versus full cost, right?
Right.
Because self-pay could conceivably mean, in somebody's mind, reasonable interpretation would say, well, you do pay a portion of your health insurance cost, right? So isn't that considered self-pay? But in talking with Ms. Brownlee and the city attorney, self-pay means 100%. The COBRA example that,
And I agree with Councilmember Walker's logic. The only concern I would have is if the California League of Cities is saying, hey, this is what we recommend, and then an outside attorney is basically saying, this is what we recommend, and if we bring modifications to it from a council perspective, are we exposing ourselves?
we're supporting the recommendations to make the modifications as proposed.
Well, I think what Ms. Walker's talking about is, we're making one document, instead of having a document that says, please refer to,
These other
15.127, and then another
Yeah.
paragraph down, it says, refer to 92.59, basically rescinding all of those and making one new resolution
Right,
that
correct.
combines all three resolutions and passing it
Yeah,
that way.
so we have two right now, one specifically for current members, and we have, this one that I have before you is for former electeds, but we can combine both.
And to your point, the modifications are consistent with the advice given by the League of California Cities to get this cleaned up.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
so.
you.
Ms.
Does-
Brownlee, you don't see any problems with doing that? I guess we'd bring that back. Or could we take action and just give direction to modify, or would we want to have it brought back
We'll need to bring it back on the 19th,
on the 19th?
as directed,
Well, and
as
since it
modified as
doesn't-
directed.
It doesn't apply to anyone, right? I mean,
Correct.
this,
It
this
doesn't-
this
it doesn't
particular
affect
change is
anyone.
just housekeeping,
Yes.
but we'll do it right this.
20 years later, yes.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
we're a little behind on this one.
Okay.
Any other questions from council?
No.
Okay, I think, Ms. Brownlee, you have direction from council, and we'll see this back on the 19th. Thank you.
That was like truly the most confusing thing for me to read.
Okay, item number 15, discussion regarding relocation of Imperial Valley Cycle Center to the former Direct Auto Dealership site. Presentation by our Director of Community Services, Marcela Piedra.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Before you is an item that we're bringing just for discussion purposes. There's no particular action that's being requested at this time by staff from council. What it is, it's basically a proposal that was presented to us by Mr. Marty Coyne, the current owner of what was formerly known as Imperial Valley Cycle Center and now is operating as Coyne Power Sports. Back in October, he had a meeting with city staff along with city manager and council member Ms. Silva and also council member Walker, and presented to us what he's looking at doing at a vacant site that we have, which is known as the former Direct Auto dealership site. And basically what it is, it's an economic and redevelopment proposal that he is presenting to the city for consideration. Just a little bit of background on Coyne Power Sports, again, formerly operating for many years as Imperial Valley Cycle Center. They opened for business in 1981. They are currently operating at 1334 North Imperial Avenue in a 1.acre site. They are in the business of selling motorcycles, ATVs, side-by-sides, and watercraft. They currently employ 20 full-time employees with a payroll of approximately $1.5 million. This is a picture of their existing location. As I indicated, they are currently operating in a approximately 1.1 acre site. And based on their current business and where the industry is going in terms of the power sports, they have outgrown this facility, thus their interest in relocating their existing business. Just in essence, what the project proposal is, I do want to indicate, as was included in the council report, that staff is currently working with Kaiser Marston to conduct a financial review analysis of this project to determine if there is a financial gap in this project. The elements of this proposal consist of relocating the existing business to the former Direct Auto Plaza auto dealership, rehabilitating the existing 39,450 square foot building that currently sits on that site, which is approximately 6 acres. And they hope to provide a modern showroom for their existing product line and also expand their existing product line to include the sale of travel trailers and RVs. They hope that by 2025, they can hire 75 full-time employees for this expansion plan. These are just pictures of the current Direct Auto property. Again, it's a pretty big size property in a very prominent location here in the city. Obviously, to the north, it has Interstate 8. And then, of course, 4th Street has, high traffic, and it's located on Wake Avenue there on the corner of 4th and Wake Avenue. These are just some of the pictures of the existing building. It's a pretty big size building, very appropriate for what Mr. Coyne is proposing to do in this location. This is just a very preliminary rendering of how they foresee seeing those improvements to that existing building. Again, they're trying to work with the existing foundation and building that currently sits on this site. This is just another view of what they're proposing to do. And then just wanted to mention, Mr. Coyne did share with us that he did a very similar project in Banning, California. He took basically an old auto dealership and worked with the city to do a redevelopment of this existing site. And currently, this is a picture of what that site looks like. So he's hoping that he can emulate that type of development here in that existing location. Staff will come back after that financial analysis is completed to present any potential agreement that we may consider in the event, again, that we do confirm that there is a financial gap that exists on this project. Mr. Coyne is here if there's any questions that council would have at this time. Again, we're bringing this for just presentation and discussion that we're currently working with this potential economic redevelopment project.
Thank you, Marcel. Questions from council? Or Mr. Coyne, would you like to make a statement first?
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Marty Coyne, Imperial Valley Cycle Center. I'd like to introduce my son, Travis Coyne, who is the next generation of Coyne Power Sports. Hopefully, the next 33 years. We've been in our existing location for about 33 years. I don't know if you'd like me to start and kind of walk you through the process, what we have in mind, or if you have any initial questions based on Marcela's presentation, or how you'd like to handle it.
What's the desire of the council? Would you like to Why don't you give us a walkthrough, Mr. Cohen, of
Okay,
what
just
your
briefly.
vision?
After 33 years, Imperial Valley Cycle Center, now Coin Power Sports, we've outgrown our location. Surely you guys have all noticed that the size of the vehicles are about 3 times of a motorcycle, the Polaris Razors and everything, and we've grown some tremendous growth over the last few years. And we know we're limited where we're at, and all of a sudden we started looking. We looked at obviously other locations within the city. We looked at the Mervyn's building. We actually was obviously courted by other cities, and even looked at even a county site. And after many looks, and we have a relationship with Mr. Thomas, we looked at the direct auto property. And at the time we were told doctors had already tied it up in escrow. It was going to become a fleet of like 20 little mini doctor offices, which I really felt at the time, and I went to Mr. Thomas, and I even talked to some of the city council staff, saying, that's not the right place. That's one of the, you guys have one of the last prime retail spaces, I believe, in the city of El Centro to do something great, bring in sales tax revenue. Doctors' offices won't do that for you. So it was already tied up in escrow, so we thought we'd kind of sit back. And we also looked at other options of buying Mondos and trying to kind of expand where we're at in our existing location. And it just really didn't fit. And when we thought that we could be next to the freeway and all that traffic goes to the river in the summertime and the desert in the wintertime from San Diego and the other way from Yuma, we really felt that we can bring a lot of new business into the city of El Centro and some new sales tax dollars, and of course increasing the employment along with that. So after looking at our options, we've really kind of landed here. We got lucky when some money was supposed to go non-refundable from the doctor's offices. They failed to put that money non-refundable, and I jumped in the next day. So we entered into an agreement with Mr. Thomas. We are in a feasibility period right now, kind of a 60-day free look, looking at the numbers. And again, I had been in touch with some staff and some of you folks to kind of discuss the concept. Just to let you know how close we are, we just took occupancy of the building that you're seeing in your screen there in August. It was a heavily blighted, equally to, if not worse than direct auto. Not a whole new buildings, a whole new showroom and facility we built there. That was the outside car lot where all the old cars used to be. It was a 70s type auto dealership. Had a showroom for 2 cars, and the rest were all service bays and parts department. In that particular case, we were at the end of the RDA days, I guess, state of California. And so the city, that's the way this particular project went down. City went to, I think it's called the State Treasury Department or whatever, had to get special permission to use some of their last dollars. But in this particular case, the city of Banning was able to secure and purchase the property for us at $1.2 million. They gave us funding to rehab the existing location, the existing buildings. I think the statute didn't call for doing new construction, so we did about a $300,000 improvement to the existing facility. So the city had an investment of about $1.5 million. Then we had a clear understanding we'd move in temporarily while we constructed a brand new showroom. So we took it from about 18,000 square feet. We're pretty close to about 30,000 square feet. I will say this is you can still see some of our temporary signs. In fact, up there it just says Coin Power Sports now open. We're still waiting for some final signage to come in. Immediately since we opened, and we really haven't had an official grand opening, our business is up 30% within 90 days. We've hired, we actually used some local subcontractors from Imperial Valley. Duggan's Construction actually is who we hired to do that facility. So we were proud to bring people from the valley to do the work. But again, we were able to hire additional employment locally. The city's ecstatic. I mean, it literally almost looked like direct auto, very, very blighted. And we've had a great relationship and partnership with the city, and it's gone so well. Originally, I kind of thought, you know what, I'm ready to retire. I'll let my kids deal with a new building, new facility down the road, and all of a sudden that turned out so good. Direct auto kind of popped up, and here I find myself looking at another project amongst other ones I'm still dealing with. So we're kind of excited about it, but we really truly feel that we can't do everything we need to do without some support from the city. And we understand RDA dollars are long gone, but we also know not only within Imperial County, auto dealerships in the city and outside the city, there's been some sales tax sharing that has been an option to go along with it. And we're here to, I'd like to walk you through some of my notes real quick, but ask for some sort of, see if staff could be directed. And I know they've already hired a consultant to look at our numbers and what the costs are. Overall, we're looking at about a $7 million project to put Coin Power Sports there at the intersection. with some future options and abilities also to bring additional jobs and sales tax. We would love to see a Starbucks drive-through on the, what would it be, the southwest corner, the option of maybe doing another pad on the, what would it be, the northwest corner, Chipotle, something like that. Obviously,
Bad
as you...
choice, bad choice.
Bad choice. At this point in time, I've been reading the newspaper and agree with you. Or any fast food. But I guess at the end of the day, it's jobs, it's sales tax. That really is a destination area for travelers to get off. And you'd be surprised how many people from Imperial County has told me they've seen our new dealership. And you know why? There's a Starbucks at 22nd Street, and that's the stopping point, it seems like. And I believe right here, she's a witness to it. But so we would like to bring more people in and more jobs. Let me double check a couple of my notes here and see. So the biggest reason, of course, is visibility. The direct auto property, 6.6 acres. And as Marcella said, we're at 1.1. Gives us the ability to even expand further. For many years, being in the business that we're in now, everybody buys toy haulers. And they retail anywhere from $35,000 to over $100,000 these days. So, you know, I see us being able to take a facility of that size on, bring all of our, if you've ever been by our store, keeping the dust off the units and the sunlight and the fading that happens, we can now bring our entire inventory indoors. We're excited about taking an RV line in, and so instead of all of our local residents going to Yuma or San Diego to buy their RVs and motorhomes, we have some tenant agreements pending already with some manufacturers to bring some lines in. So we're excited about that. That adds big ticket items, it adds sales tax dollars, and it brings a lot of jobs into the community. So that's part of our plan also. I don't know if I said, I think she said 40,000 square feet. Where we stand now is by doing that, it would increase our sales through 5 times than what we have right now. Our parts and accessory department, which is big in our business compared to the auto business. We sell all the aftermarket stuff and paddle tires and helmets and all that stuff. So that would increase about 5-fold as well. So we're hoping our business would also increase that. We're looking, when we did our projections and our initial expansion study, we believe over the next 10 years we can increase our revenue by 500% and add as many as 75 employees. For us, that's big. We're excited about staying in the city of El Centro. I think what was it, the Imagine Awards? I said a little blurb, but came down from San Diego in 1981. I spent about 8 months in the city of Imperial. I realized I needed to be in El Centro. Kind of opened up a little old place there, if you guys recall. That was now the Vons. Used to be a line of motorcycle dealerships there, Suzuki, Honda, and I bought them all out over time, and then ended up, which was an old Volkswagen dealership back in the early days, and that's where we've been ever since. There's always concern, and I've heard, I think Mrs. Walker is one of them, or it was passed on to me, about having another blighted building. Somebody moves from one to the other, as what happened with the mall and the old Mervyn Center and all that.
Walmart.
There you go. We have a really good thing, and it's really, really good for the city, is we have a letter of intent from Smart and Final. They want to double their size from 16,000, I believe, I could be wrong, 18 to 32,000 square feet, and they would like to buy our facility, our land, and go ahead and expand there. And with that, it takes care of me having a single-use vacant building based on the move, eliminates the normal things that we're seeing around town, having them being, you know, what do you call it, vandalized and copper stolen out. So we're really excited. That's one of the conditions of trying to balance and work with the city and work with Smart and Final and Mr. Thomas and make all this happen. Is in a perfect world, you're going to get a new Smart and Final in the city of El Centro. Hopefully they'll double their sales by doubling their size. With us, we're going to add an RV line. We feel we can grow, you know, we're already growing great. But we feel we can really like triple or quadruple our sales in the power sports business. Our client base, and the reason we changed our name to Coin Power Sports, is trying to create a brand outside the city of El Centro. I started here. I want to finish here. We acquired some locations out of town, you know, and by having, and that's also a Coin Power Sports. But now we have one website, 1-800 number. We can market better, and we kind of build our reputation. We have customers, Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, San Diego, and all the other, you know, counties and cities around California, and we'd like to continue to do that. The advantage is we employ our people here locally. We charge, you know, collect sales tax here locally, so it goes way, way beyond what we do. We have a connection, as most of you all know, with SCORE. Coin Power Sports is now the official supplier of power sports to SCORE International. So now we're selling to SCORE members that race from Texas and all over the place. When we had our races here, got some of the guys to come in and buy some units. So we got a lot of exciting things going on, and we want to have the city stay involved and continue to grow and what else here? So at the end of the day, you know, we feel we have a win-win for the city, and we do for us. More employment, more sales tax revenue. We're changing blight in the city there at an important, how do you call it, entry into the city that people drive through, and we want to change that to beautification. You saw just some very initial renderings. We're in just a concept phase, but the renderings that you see is kind of the direction we want to go. The big entrance of glass there, we want people to see that from the freeway. We want to create them a reason to have them stop in El Centro. And then once we get them to stop, then it's our job, hopefully, to sell them power sports from Coin and spend their dollars here in the city of El Centro. What happens if we don't acquire that? Well, chances are that right now, I even saw the email to Mr. Thomas. The Highway Patrol tried to snag it before me, but they didn't have, they now have found funding. If we don't complete our escrow on time, on task, as I agreed, the Highway Patrol is willing to take that facility over. Not so sure the city wants it. I was told you lose your base because they don't have to pay taxes, but at the same time, it's a prime retail location, and you know, somebody pulling the city and see all cop cars there, I don't know, would be the best thing in the world, but they're the next guys that are in line if we can't make this happen, and we definitely need the city's help. Our other option is stay where we're at and just deal with it as we go. But usually, you know, if you're not moving forward, that means you're moving backwards. And we're really at that point. We need to make some decisions. And obviously, it's big financial decisions and big commitments. But with I have 3 of my 4 children that work for me. And Courtney's my finance director, Travis is my general manager, and my son Nolan's taking accounting. So I feel that I'll be in good hands years down the road that we can continue to grow Coin Power Sports after either retire or something happens. But I really think that's it. I'm available to answer any questions for you.
Okay.
And thanks for taking the time.
Let's bring it back to council. Mr. Silva, you want to lead out?
I think this is an exciting project for El Centro. I think as Mr. Cohen mentioned, I did meet with him previously, and so I was briefed on all the dynamics and intricacies of the projects. The project, you know, we're going to wait for the financial study and see where there may be some financial holes, if any, and how we'll be able to support this venture, this project. I do think it's a win-win. Have to wait and see the numbers and how they work out, and they have to make sense. That's in fact a financial gap that the city may be and create jobs and create additional sales tax revenue. So I think that's a good idea.
Mr. Coyne, thanks again for your time and your presentation. Again, you've been a staple in our community, you know, for numerous years. I think one thing you may have failed to recognize or share with the council is your philanthropy and some of the things that you've done to reinvest in our community, and we've always appreciated all the things that you've done to support community events. So definitely an essential partner, and I also want to recognize Ms. Piedra also for, you know, allowing us to maybe take a look at it from a third party's perspective in terms of the financial analysis. And, you know, I will defer more of my comments until we see kind of the results, but very excited about your vision. And that's what I really have liked and admired about you is your vision. So you've been a successful salesman, and so you coming before the council and sharing your vision is very, very important to me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Ms. Walker?
I think you are the definition of an entrepreneur. I mean, look it up in the dictionary, and there you are. And I think this is incredibly exciting. I do have some questions for staff. I do want to make a comment, though, that we did have a national company come in looking for help from the city of El Centro, and I said no, because you guys remember that restaurant?
Yes.
Whose initials are OG that I've never set foot in. It's over there by the mall.
But all those stores are all filled in around it.
And not a single other restaurant in that area had to come to us and ask for a dime. But not that I want to go back there. But I think that this is an amazing project. One of the things I'm really looking forward to is finding out what the city's options are with regard to economic development, post-redevelopment. Because we've got pretty pretty comfortable with what we could do when redevelopment was a tool that I think the city of El Centro used in the true manner in which it was intended. And this community benefited greatly from redevelopment. So I'm excited to see what we can do and appreciate your can-do attitude. If I have a couple of questions for actually probably Mr. Hagan, maybe? And this would have to do with the access at Wake and 4th Street.
Boy, I have some
In
questions
that
and comments on
area,
that.
it's awful. The traffic pattern in that area is really, really bad. And I'm wondering if, maybe when Mr. Coyne is able to move forward, is there some potential for some changes in that area with regard to the traffic pattern? You know that on 4th Street, it's a turn only, and access into the site is pretty restricted. So that's question number one. Question number two is, if we do the swap and we end up with Mr. Coyne here and Smart and Final expanding, would that trigger our opportunity to get curbs, sidewalks, and gutters on both sides? Because I think we only have them on that frontage road. It's only on the west side. Would that trigger an opportunity for us to enhance that area?
I believe it would on your second question.
Okay.
And I know Marty's talked to me about wanting a left turn off of Highway 86, 4th Street. And once we take over the Caltrans releases Highway 86 and we take it over and start maintaining it, is a possibility for a left turn. Of course, a lot of the vehicles going eastbound, getting off the ramp, it would be a short distance. They'd have to cut across several lanes, but if it's done with signalization, it's a possibility. But I think it's a possibility having a left turn there. Not while Caltrans has it, though.
Okay. And what about access off of Wake? Is there-
Well, currently you have access right here for the service bay, and that's a good access point as well. And then exiting it's back here,
northbound.
that would be fine as well, too.
Okay, so there's hope.
Well,
Yes.
if you don't mind,
Sure.
I'm willing to accept that challenge with Caltrans. I thought it was really kind of a chicken move. You got a vacant dealership there, In-N-Out comes in, and they go in. I know Mr. Thomas probably didn't care at the time, but, you have a no U-turn at the end there. And they took away his main entrance to his dealership, and he probably figured somebody from out of town was going to buy it and really didn't care. And I understand the whole reason behind that with the Chinese place, what's it called? Panda Express and In-N-Out. They were concerned about them darting across and hanging a left turn. Well, you kind of have a little bit that at Vaughn's. All you have to do is set your left turn lane further to the north so nobody from those two exits can cut across. But nobody thought deep enough because it was a vacated, blighted, property, and you see those all over the place. And yeah, I'm prepared to fight Caltrans for it. I think it could be done. It could be done safely. But when you really have 6.6 acres with really one entrance on Wake Avenue, I don't think it's fair to the city. I don't think it's fair to the owner, and it's definitely not going to be fair. One thing we don't want to do is deter business and not invite people to come in and spend their money in the city of El Centro. And I think it was wrongly done, and with support from the city, we think we can make it happen without creating a safety hazard by moving that turn lane down and not allowing anybody from Panda or In-N-Out to be able to cut across and turn left.
Okay. Thank you.
And can I just say one other thing? Probably because of track records too, we were in the city of Beaumont since 1999. The city of Banning put faith in us and spent $1.5 million basically up front, kind of taking a shot. We haven't been there 33 years. But again, with RDA gone, we can't necessarily find a way and ask the city. So I have to go out and secure the funds in hopes of getting it over a period of time. For example, a lot of 10-year deals out there on a sales tax split. So it's actually probably an easier hit, maybe not because you lost those funds, but yeah, it's easier, and it's a heck of a lot longer wait to do it the way we have to now compared to the way we're able to do it.
And I guess the other thing, Ms. Pieter, one thing I would be wondering is, if we enter into, and I'm sure your consultant is looking at this, I think what we want to do is have an understanding of whether or not prevailing wage would be triggered if the city becomes involved in some kind of an agreement with Mr. Coyne, and then he moves forward with all of these property improvements and everything else he's doing. I'm assuming the consultant's going to be looking at that as well.
Well, actually, it would trigger prevailing wages. The issue is obviously, we're not the developer on the
Right.
project. However, if the city provides a subsidy, then the potential is there.
Okay.
But ultimately, it would be the responsibility of the developer to
Okay.
bear that cost and pay that
All
cost.
Mr. Garcia, any questions?
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great location. It's a big lot. Access to the freeway, especially for your line of business, because of the county use that we have for power sports, I think it'd be great. I'm anxious to see the financials and to see a project like that come to the city.
Awesome. Yeah, in a perfect world, our goal would be is to close escrow in February. You know, I don't know how long we can extend Mr. Thomas out, and we'd like to have it occupied by August and be in business ready for our what would that be, 2016 season after the summer, so, which is big for us. Okay.
I just have a couple comments. Ms. Piedra, in the financial analysis, would we also be looking at the potential increase of revenue from the swap with Smart and Final? Would that factor into the overall numbers?
As far as any kind of sales projection for Smart and Final, that's independent. Basically, any sales information, any analysis is taking place just for Coin Power Sports, not Smart and Final.
Okay. And in the overall, and maybe Mr. Hagan would be better suited for this question, but in the, I think we all see the need for some different access points and along Wake or Fourth. Would we be looking at any potential need for easement from the current property to either extend or add turn lanes or any of that? Would that help the process with dealing with Caltrans if we were to look at something like that?
That's a possibility we could research.
Well, it's especially because we know right now, 4th Street to Wake, there's no U-turn. If we had more street space, maybe we could allow people to be doing the U-turn off of 4th and coming into the main entrance there off.
But you have a lift station there, believe it or not. I think it's one of the reasons.
We do.
Well, that's right,
But,
right
but,
in the corner.
but on the,
Oh, that's right.
we don't mind a right in, right out, of course, coming out of there. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of getting the business in. And of course, the majority of the traffic. But we're willing
That's
to work
true.
really, really hard to make that happen because we feel it's important.
I'm very excited about the possibilities. I think, you know, I drive by that property every single day, and unfortunately, it is a blighted area, and from time to time, there's, you know, vandalism, broken windows and such. The concept that you shared with us as far as a new facility is something I think that brings the appearance and steps up the city of El Centro in that area with all the freeway access and people seeing that to a whole nother level. And then the potential to have Smart and Final double its size in utilizing your old, you know, or what would become your former property, I think is another win-win, because we've actually identified what we're always worrying about is moving, what Ms. Walker says, moving from one facility to another, and it's really nice and great, but then we have what's left over. And in this case, you've already been able to identify that with a letter of intent from Smart and Final. You've dotted your I's and crossed your T's. I'm really looking forward to the financials and what we can do to work together as a partner and make this happen.
Awesome. I only wish that you could see the inside of that building. I did convince Marcella to take a walk through there with me. There's not a speck of wiring, copper, air conditioning, or anything else left in there besides all the damage that's been done. It's really, really sad. It's added another $800,000 to our budget. It's just very, very, very sad. And hopefully we can see that stop and get rid of these beasts that are doing that out there.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 16, discussion and necessary action ordinance number 15-129.
Actually, it would be 20 if it's adopted.
I'm sorry, one what?
1520.
1520? Oh, we're on an ordinance. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Centro, California, amending Chapter 19, Article 3, Section 1942, subsections A and B and I of the Municipal Code, establishing regulations for the use of designated state board areas, waive reading, and approve. Did I miss a part?
Where? Waive reading and authorize city clerk to place on
Yeah.
the next agenda.
And waive reading and place on the next agenda for second reading and adoption. presentation by Ms. Piedra.
Yes, again, good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Basically, this ordinance is already established within our municipal code. What we are simply doing is we are clarifying the language as it relates specifically to how we identified the hours of operation of the skate park. In the previous ordinance we actually identified the hours being 7 in the morning to 10 p.m. Pretty much every day of the week. However, as you have also been contacted, and also city staff, there's been some issues with the operation of the skate park, and so staff went ahead and did have the authorization as per the municipal code to change the hours of operation, with the hopes that maybe some of the concerns and some of the issues that were raised by the public were minimized as a result of this change in hours. So effective December 1st, we actually changed the hours of operation at the skate park. We're currently opening the skate park from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And on Saturday and Sunday, we are opening up at 10 in the morning to 9 p.m. in the evening. So that's been our current schedule. So simply what we're doing with the ordinance is just indicating that no person shall utilize the designated skateboard areas at times other than those established as the hours of operation. The normal hours of operation shall be as designated by the director. So we don't specifically identify times. We just indicate that they're designated by the director. The other change that was done was based on the recent passage of AB 1146, which basically, and you may recall that our previous ordinance did not allow the use of scooters, basically in our skate park. Well, now with the passage of AB 1146, the way this language reads is that devices such as scooters and what they call as wheeled recreational devices other than skateboards are allowed. And so to have consistency with that, we're making that change as well. So in essence, those are the two changes that we're bringing forward with this ordinance as it relates to the municipal code relating to the skate parks.
Marcella, and the tobacco? The tobacco?
And just also including that there's no allow of use of tobacco products in the skate park, as that was also an issue of concern by the public. Thank you.
Ms. Piedra, I think, I believe we all received an email from a Mr. Fitzurka regarding the hours, and in his case, as a 4-H leader, the desire to either have different hours or a carve-out for groups such as 4-H, which I believe they have a skateboard program that he is mentoring through the 4-H. And he had previously scheduled his 4-H meetings for 8 a.m. In his conversation or his email, basically he stated the reason for that was the beginning or beginners of skating, not to collide with more of sophisticated skaters, and also to keep potentially those younger kids away from potentially a bad element that may or may not exist in the later hours. What can we do to address that specifically, as far as when we have something like a 4-H program that would like to have access maybe during non-hours or something along those sorts, or something along that nature?
Basically just, I mean, we have an unsupervised skate park facility, and to open it up for certain groups, I think that would obviously turn it into, and I think we would have to have staff basically go there and be there, open the skate park. And at that point, you're opening up to all members of the community, not necessarily just to that group. I did respond to the gentleman and indicated that for reasons he pointed out that basically it appeared that we were concerned about, kids that should be in the public school system, that we were doing the hours because we were trying to not have kids be there when they should be in school. Well, as I indicated to him, that was not, that was one of the reasons, but of course we were dealing with other issues related to the skate park. So, again, if we were to open up the skate park, we would have to open it up for the general public at that point and not have exclusivity of a certain group.
What are his comments regarding the fact that during, as we're coming to the Christmas season when schools are closed, what are we going to do about that when we're are we going to modify those hours during the times like summer and
Yes.
Christmas season?
Yes, basically the plan is for, especially when the schools, when the school is out, that we would modify those hours and open earlier.
Do we post the hours?
Yes, we do. We do have a sign out
Okay,
that says
so the
the hours.
modifications can be readily
Yes.
understood by anyone that's going there?
Yes, the sign, if you see it, it's right there, clearly right in the main entrance.
Ms. Piedra, I'm really kind of struggling with this a little bit, and maybe you can help me, and I know within the ordinance, we can make the executive decision to modify hours, but usually, I try to look at data before making decisions like that. And it appears that we're making a decision to reduce truancy, or we're trying to say that there's a nexus between truancy and our skate park out. Or did I hear you say that one of the reasons we're modifying our hours is because of truancy concerns?
Well, that was one of the issues. There was other issues of concern. We've been dealing with vandalism. Unfortunately, the first week we opened up the skate park, and it's hard to say at what time this is happening. But, there was concerns about bullying children, and that has been the case at different times of the hours. More seasoned skaters not allowing the little ones to skate. We've been getting calls about that. There's been vandalism that has been done to the restrooms, unfortunately. There's been issues. Again, it's hard to identify, and I know the police has been called in for certain issues as well, but it's kind of hard to identify at what times, this is happening. So we did it, we changed the hours in the hopes of trying to see, what the response has been in terms of some of the concerns that we're seeing.
And again, if I would be a little bit more comfortable, and again, this is difficult and challenging for staff because I don't know who's using that skate park. If you're looking at an 80-20 split between juveniles versus adults, because I did get contacted by a lot of adults that like to skate in the morning, and now that's kind of not an opportunity for them. And so I just don't know how that data can get collected or how we can use data to determine whether these decisions are appropriate. That would be one. And then the second one would be in regards to the role of the Parks and Recs commissioners and what input and say do they have in these types of decisions. And I'm curious to see if we use them as a sounding board when making these decisions, because I would hope, and again, I'm open to you bringing some more context behind it, but I hope that at some point that was before the Parks and Recs commissioners so they can add some input on whether they believe that this is appropriate. Now, could you share with me if that was shared with our Parks and Recs commissioner? That'd be one question. And then the second question, do you believe it's appropriate that it is shared with the Parks and Recs commissioners so they can have some input on whether or not that's effective or not?
Actually, we do, because when we presented the rules and regulations, they were presented to the Community Services Commission, and they were in support. And they, again, what the difference with what you're seeing both in the ordinance and the rules and regulations is in the two documents, we specifically reference the opening and closing hours. But the director, the Community Services Director, always had the ability to change those hours depending, on obviously the facility. So, and the members of the Community Services Commission were aware of that because they did receive the rules and regulations, and they were first approved by them, and then we brought them before council.
So, and again, I wish, again, and not that there was nothing done incorrectly because it's written in the ordinance, but it would have been a little bit helpful if I would have known in advance a little bit that there was going to be a possible change in the skate park hours.
Well, actually, we did, at the last council meeting, I did present an informational report where we did indicate that we were going to change the hours effective December 1st, and then also include in there that we were bringing back the ordinance to include these changes. So it was included as an informational report.
And that's great, but I would have hoped that would have been highlighted, in terms of this is major, could be a potential major change. So I would just encourage, and shame on me for maybe not seeing that, but I look at the way our police department kind of handles situations, and they come before the council and they present, hey, we're going to go to this type of uniform, and it's over-communicated. But something like this, again, it kind of could create some concerns in terms of other parties that do use that and us building these assumptions that we think that this is going to reduce truancy because we're changing the hours in our skate park. So in summary, I guess what I'm saying, and I just wanted one more clarity, was this particular item brought before the Parks and Recs Commissioner, and were they in agreement? I know they may have been in agreement with the ordinance, but were they in agreement with and supportive of us changing those skate park hours?
Well, like I said, the rules and regulations were presented before them as far as the change of hours. We didn't have a meeting in December, so the change of hours, the exact change in hours and the schedule was not presented to them.
So can I follow? Let me just follow up on that, and I appreciate all your information. Do you think it would be in the best interest of our commissioners that this be brought before them so they can provide some input on whether or not those hours should be changed?
Yes, and we can, I mean, obviously, these are discussions that we have, and that's part of the role is to have, an impact, and to have conversations and discussions associated with any facility, not just the skate park.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Walker?
Recognizing we don't have staff on site all the time, so it's a very different scenario, but I know that when we structure our summer swim program, we carve out specific times for specific groups. So if we're going to have adult lap swim, we're going to have swim lessons, we're going to have open swim. Those are all done, and whoever is utilizing the pool is going to be utilizing the pool in conformity with whatever activity we have scheduled at that time. Could you foresee any circumstance under which we could do similar carve-outs for the skate park, where, for example, between 3 in the afternoon and 5 in the afternoon, if you're between the ages of 4 and 12, you're allowed there. After 7 o'clock, you have to be over the age of 14 to be there. Kind of looking at ways for us to separate the skaters and make it more conducive to their skill level, their age, and maybe separating some of the groups that have caused conflict. I mean, conflict in the sense that little kids can't skate, or maybe the little kids are being exposed to things that,
sure,
as parents, we would prefer they not be. I mean, it would require maybe some staffing.
That is correct, and that was going to be my response, that basically at that point, you turn into a supervised skate facility at that point. That's the only way that you would be able to allow certain groups. In the scenario and the example you use with our aquatic programs, it works because obviously we have staff there, and we carve out times for certain groups, so it works because, again, at all times we have the staffing there and the supervision there. Here we don't have that situation unless you turn into basically a supervised skateboard facility, which obviously the city of Palm Desert does that, and they have what they call a skateboard attendant, but they don't allow anybody to go in there unless they have their protective equipment. And in looking at their attendance, probably maybe they get about 12 skaters a day because of the compliance.
It's a skateboard marshal?
Exactly.
Is that, is that a city employee, or is that, because I know I've seen in some cities that operate skate parks, they actually, they have an arrangement where companies will come in and run the actual skate park, and I think they have some profit sharing involved with, they have an on-site store, and they do some different things to bring in revenue to support that. Is that what Palm Desert has, or do they just have a city attendant?
Basically, the city of Palm Desert, they are a district, so they're set up a little bit different, but they still, obviously, at the end of the day, the city's still liable in the case something happens there. As I said, they have a skate park attendant that's hired by the district, and so the young man, because we happen to be in Palm Desert because we were looking at their aquatic center, and we realized that they had a really nice skateboard facility, and we were kind of surprised because it was in the afternoon, and there was really nobody there. And we were there for maybe about 40 minutes talking to the people there, and it wasn't really attended, but I think part of the reason is because they had that staff person there, and they wouldn't allow anybody to go in there that doesn't have the protective equipment. So the staffing of it is an option, but it also comes with certain liability and budget.
I get Mr. Cardenas' point in that I'm not quite convinced that hours might be the viable solution. Marcella and I met with some of the people that would have been impacted, and at the time, there was a lot of complaints expressed to me, I think to some of us, that about vandalism, bullying activities, and so on. I think those mitigated, or people are not calling me anymore because I'm not getting those kinds of complaints anymore. But I do see someone in the audience that was there, and I'm wondering if did you have comments that you would like to? Yes. I'd like to hear from you.
Can you come up to the podium, please? State your name for the record.
My name is Ruben Nahida. I'm born and raised in El Centro, California. I'm actually a professional skateboarder. I also do acting, different movies, and stunt work. I'm essentially the only skateboarder in Pro Valley history to ever make a living skateboarding. My brother's the next one. We travel the world skateboarding. It's what we do, but we're from here. I'm also in the Desert Skate Park Coalition. I was actually not made aware that the hours were changed, and I'm basically here just to represent a lot of the youth that actually speak their mind to me, and individuals that are older as well that skateboard. And in regards to truancy, none of those things are happening at 10 o'clock in the morning, you know what I mean? I don't know who in the right mind is gonna go tag it at that time. I am there every week, some days back-to-back days, skateboarding. Every chance I get, I go there and I skateboard. I always give free things to a lot of the kids. I've been doing events. I'm the only person that does skateboard events in Pro Valley for the last 12, 13 years. You can Google my name. It pops up. There's videos of me like handing out just all kinds of free stuff, shirts, skateboard parts to kids that don't have them. But yeah, I mean, I've been there and I've seen when the crime or the truancy happens. It's always in the night. It's when it's the worst, I'd say. And if you look at the skate park, it's like a rectangle. And the second you get to the playground, the area where the snack bar is and the benches, because to begin with, the way those benches are, you can't even watch the skateboarding that's going on. They're too low. So that section is where the trouble's at. I would invite you just to go there one day, on the day, watch where the rectangle is. Everyone is skateboarding, everyone is doing their thing. Their mind is focused on that. But in that little corner section right where you enter, there is no kid playing in the playground. That's where the fights have happened. That's where the reports, they're always called for someone that did something there or someone that shouldn't be there. And funny enough, when you look at them, they don't have a skateboard. Most of them don't have a bike either. No scooter. They're just there. They don't belong there. And I know the unfortunacy of where the skate park was built at in location. You're going to get some of those people there. I know there's actually a house across the street where it's like a bunch of junkies that live there, you know, unfortunately. And so that's really the cause for concern, and that problem is that section there. But I mean, I'm there a lot, and I do not see bullying of skaters to other skaters or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I'm probably in Pro Valley's only certified skateboard instructor. You can Google that as well. And I actually teach skateboard lessons. I drive to Laguna Hills. I teach clients in Newport Beach. Very, very rich people. I've taught movie stars, kids. I've done a lot of those things. I do the drives back and forth. I'm a skateboard instructor. I mentor kids as well. And at the skate park, I don't see bullying, you know. The skateboarders, for the most part, have the best etiquette in regards to how they skateboard and let each other pass. There's probably more conflict with people on bikes crashing into boards, only because it's a bike, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's not on purpose, it's a bike. It weighs 200 pounds or 300 pounds of metal, you know what I mean? And the skateboard is essentially a piece of wood. So there's a big difference in collusion, you know what I mean? But that's not, you know, for the most part, they're doing their thing. Their mind is consumed, and they're essentially harnessing their craft, you know? I started skateboarding because I was bullied in team sports, and I actually felt really connected to what the woman said earlier about that, you know, in football, you only pick the best, and if you're not the best, you don't get to, like, I was one of those kids that didn't make the team. And I was bullied, and I started skateboarding because I could do what I wanted, when I wanted, however I wanted. I was my own, I could learn my own tricks at my own pace and the style that I wanted. And I really grew attached to that. And coming home every day doing a new trick gave me self-accomplishment. You know what I mean? It kept me out of a lot of trouble, kept my brother out of a lot of trouble. Matter of fact, it's what we do for a living. It took us all over the world, you know what I mean? They're paying us to go all over the place, you know? And I bring as much as I can to the youth as well. And so I see a lot in those kids that are there skateboarding. If you really watch them, they're skating, you're like, wow, he does not even know. Like when the fights break out, a lot of the skaters, they don't even budge. They're just, oh, okay, great, now it's more empty, I can skateboard more, you know? But you can tell who like the hooligans are, you know? Like I don't know what to call them, but you can tell, you know, they're there and they're not doing anything, you know what I mean? Like I even have a friend who's in the force. He's a police officer and he tells me the same thing. It's like, dude, it's not even the skaters, dude. It's like these guys on this, you know? If you look at it, I invite you to go there someday and just look at the rectangle where everyone's riding, and then look at the far right corner, and you'll see people there that are not on a skateboard. They're usually like high school. I've seen fights. Saw two girls fighting the other day. I saw a kid light a, he looks like he was a kid. He was like 18 or something, light a box on fire or something. But he doesn't have any skateboard or anything. I pretty much know all the skateboarders here, and I've never seen him in my life, you know? And they're the ones that are really causing the concern. And they're doing that at night when they're out of school and they're there, you know, and that's when the delinquency really is. But during the daytime, closing the hours, a lot of people want to skate there at 10, 11, and they can't. In my opinion, that was a bad call because no one, you know, asked us, you know. And that's straight in the daytime, you know, that nothing bad's happening at that time. As a matter of fact, when they did the hour switch, they opened at 1. There was an individual from the air facility, the base, who was here. He's not from here, but he happens to skateboard, and he was there that day, and they were waiting for the guy to open the gate, and the guy didn't show up till around 1:50, even though the guy was there, because he knew the hours changed to 1, so he showed up, and he still couldn't skateboard. He had a lunch break. He had to go back already. He ended up not skateboarding, and he was disappointed, and he's not even from here, but he knew it was there. So there's individuals that want to skateboard there in the daytime, you know, and kids aren't ditching school to skateboard there. That's not a big problem as well. If the ones that skateboard there know the park's not going anywhere, they come there at night, and that's when it really fills up. There's this peak hour at night when it really, really fills up. But during the day, it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. It should be open at all the times. If anything, I mean, honestly, at night, I mean, I know the police sometimes patrol around there, maybe just patrol around there a little extra at night, and they'll definitely catch what's going on. Actually, pretty easy probably, because those, I don't know what the deal is with the youth like that. I don't know what their problem is. I mean, when I grew up, I never saw that many fights and that many, you know, and they have nothing that their mind is set on, you know. They're not playing sports, they're not skateboarding, they're not writing, singing, they're not in a band, they're not consumed with something, you know, they don't have an activity, and those are usually the troublemakers. Yeah. So.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure, go ahead.
Usher, Ms. Piedra, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Any questions for the gentleman?
So you're not in agreement with the change, the hours change?
No, that's actually really pointless, actually. I mean, we actually had this one thing, and you were there at the meeting where we spoke about maybe putting some cameras and warning. Like, that would definitely scare off some people if they saw that, you know, and be like, oh, I can't do this because the camera's there, you know? Maybe that would essentially be more of a, you know, of a benefiting thing, you know, because it's like, oh, I'm being watched, you know? But the hours, it's like, you cancel those morning hours when nothing was even happening anyways, you know? I mean, it would have made more sense to put efforts towards the, you know, maybe closer to 9 o'clock, like 8 something, 9 o'clock, around that time, and you'll really catch what's going on, you know, like guaranteed, like absolutely guaranteed. But during the day, I don't agree with the hour change. That was actually really strange, and a lot of people really, really found that strange. To say that I can't think of one skateboarder, and I know like essentially all of them, I can't think of one that agrees with that, that's a bad thing, you know? I mean, it's a skate park, it's there for the skateboarders. So no one agrees with that hour. Everyone's like just really thrown off by why, you know, everyone from myself to Brett Driscoll, the owner of the skate shop, to my brother, to the youth, the kids, the older skaters, I believe it's Mark from 4-H who has also. Yeah. He's even really strange. It is strange, you know? It's like, wait a minute, this is when it's the most peaceful. it's when you can do the most because there's not that many people there, you know? So it's actually a time when it should be guaranteed open, actually,
I
you
think
know?
that was one of Mr. Fitzgerald's comments was that was when he had his peace and quiet
Yeah.
away from, you know.
There's nothing going on at that time. It's like the safest time possible. It's kind of strange that it's be closed at that time.
Any other questions
Yeah.
for?
No, I don't
I'm
know.
sorry, what was your name?
Ruben.
Ruben.
Najera, Najera.
That's good to know that. I didn't realize we had a
Yeah,
celebrity among us.
you can Google my name. Coming out in a movie in the next. Well, we're shooting in the summer 2016. I'm coming with Peter Fonda, Tony Hawk, in a movie called Skate God. I do autograph signings at Comic-Con the last 2 years. I'm signed for 2 other films and possibly something with Marvel for some stunt stuff. I can't speak about that because of the contract thing, but yeah, I do a lot of things. You can just Google my name, but I'm from here. I'm in the Desert Skate Park Coalition. In the videos, actually in the newsletter that came out for the skate park recently, I'm the one with the helmet on, skating, doing the trick down the ledge. And I'm the one that spoke there. I'm basically the voice of the skateboard community. I'm not afraid to speak, essentially, you know? But a lot of kids are skateboard more timid, or, you know what I mean? But I'm kind of like the voice, so, but yeah. But yeah.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
You had a question?
Just
for
real quick, I just wanted to clarify a comment. You know, Ms. Piedra, it's actually for Ms. Piedra.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Piedra, I know you have worked hard on this, and so I do want to acknowledge your intent to address this, because I know that if my inbox is filling up, so is yours. So I do appreciate everything that you do.
Not just the inbox, the telephone too.
The telephone. And again, the only thing I would encourage, and this is just a recommendation, that we do get some insight maybe from our Parks and Recs commissioner. And I don't know what that would look like, but you know, at least if that there was some discussions that maybe came back, or recommendations from the Parks and Recs commissioners to say, hey, this is what we believe, or this is what we think should take place. It helped me out a little bit to use them as a sounding board as far as, you know, what they thought was appropriate. And that's my only comment. But I just wanted to clarify that I do appreciate everything you're doing, and it is a very challenging situation.
Well, I agree with that recommendation, but I think that we can still take action.
Oh, absolutely.
Give her
Absolutely.
So I think that that's a great recommendation to go back and.
And what is, just so I know exactly what the recommendation is, because I think, I'm sorry, Marcel, what is the actual recommendation?
Well, basically, the recommendation is to approve the revised ordinance, and as I pointed out, the ordinance in the previous one that we had approved on August 8th of 2015, this was before we opened the skateboard facility on September the 10th, we actually identified on section, and I'm looking straight out of the ordinance, which would be probably page 250 of your packet.
Yes.
The change would be to section 2, B, where it talks about the normal hours of operation. In the previous ordinance, we had 7 in the morning to 10 in the evening. That was just the reference. Now, the change is to say the normal hours of operation shall be as designated by the director. So you're eliminating the timeframes to allow the staff again to be able to, depending on the circumstances and situations, to change the hours as deemed appropriate.
I do think that's a positive change, because otherwise you have to come back and change the ordinance
Every
every time you
single
want
time,
to change
yeah.
the hours. So I'm not in opposition of that. I do, however, agree with, I think with what Councilmember Cardenas is saying, that I think we really need to go back and reevaluate the 1 o'clock opening.
Yes, and and one of the things that, you know, we have said, and especially to people that, you know, have called, and I think you understand, and I think because a lot of you got these calls as well, is there was concern, no matter how you go, and to Councilmember Cardenas' point, is we've had lengthy conversations with our community services commissioners, and we have some that agree that, you know, we should be enforcing and being out there enforcing the safety equipment. There's others that feel that if we do that will deter participation. So we have that mixed feedback from the Community Services Commission. So we have these conversations with them because obviously their function is to look at the operations of just any recreational facility, not just a skate park. So we have these conversations with them, and we have, like I said, obviously we have a commission that's made up of, 7 members? So, we have these conversations that take place, so we do have and present these items to them. But as I have pointed out, obviously, to people that have also called to say that if we reconsider the hours, and I say yes. As a matter of fact, like I said, during summertime or depending on the situation, that's why we're making this change, is to allow the staff that flexibility to, depending, whether it's summer hours or a different situation, to change those hours and obviously provide notification to the council.
A question that was asked earlier was as to signs.
Yes.
The sign that you referenced, that's static, right? Does it change? Are we able to change it as we modify hours?
When we originally did, we have a big sign that has all of our rules. And in that sign too, it had the hours of 7 to 10, but obviously they were changed. So what we did is we added another sign right in the main entrance of the skate park that has these new hours posted. But the big sign that we have within the facility inside, it has all of the basically all the rules and regulations for the skate park.
I don't have a problem with the ordinance, and I agree with Mr. Silva. I think this saves a lot of staff time of coming back every time we want to change the times. I have to say, I agree with Mr. Cardenas, and it might be the sentiment of the council is that, as the young man said, it's a skate park, but yet we're not utilizing it. We spent a lot of money, a lot of resources to construct this skate park, and I think it's a huge success. Yes, there's been some issues, but I don't know that changing the times really addresses those issues. Those issues are always going to be there. I drive by there morning and night and afternoon, and it's the one thing that I can say that I'm proud of as a council member, that it's always being used. It's a facility that's being used every single day from the time that they open. I mean, I've seen kids waiting for our staff to open it in the morning, and I see people that are upset that they're getting kicked out at 10 o'clock. I mean, they want to skate there. The other positive thing about the skate park, and I think we all knew this would hopefully happen, is you haven't seen the complaints from the business owners and the business community about the skaters and the bikers. I know, obviously, my profession in the security industry is I haven't seen that at places like the Valley Plaza, where it was constant every single day, and where there was potential accidents when you went to go get a Starbucks, where kids are crossing. Burger King was just packed with kids. All that has moved to the skate park. The vandalism, the damage to private property has decreased. Unfortunately,
Moved to the skate park.
It's moved to the skate park, unfortunately. But to penalize the kids that are there and the adults, because in some cases, as some of the emails that we've all gotten, some of the people that are addressing this and reaching out to us are adults, not kids. To penalize the people that are using the park for the purpose that it was provided, to try to alleviate and address a small percentage of what's going on by, in the words of Ruben here, the people that don't even have skateboards or bikes and they probably have no business there, I think is unfortunate. And I would be, I would recommend that we go back to the regular hours, especially in lieu of the fact that we're getting ready to start, I don't know when Christmas break starts, but I think it starts in this Friday, right? People want to use that facility. And if we're going to put that kind of resources into a facility, and we want to revitalize that whole area, that's the whole point of what we're doing at Adams Park, is to do that. We need to, maybe we need to address some of the issues that the gentleman brought up. Maybe we need some extra patrols, in the evenings to address those. Maybe we need to look at cameras as a deterrent.
And we are looking at cameras.
Because I think
we are looking at the installation of cameras.
That is a true deterrent to the issues. And if we want to speak to the actual issues that are happening, whether it be the fights, whether it be the truancy, whether it be the vandalism, That's how we do it, not by cutting hours.
What I would recommend is, because we are in the process of installing cameras, basically when we built the skate park, we have the wiring, it's just a matter of, contracting it out. What I would recommend is, and hopefully it doesn't take that long to do that installation, is that when we do the installation of the cameras, is we bring back and reconsider the hours of opening the skate park. So that way, we have the cameras there, and if we decide to extend the hours of operation, that's already functional there. That would be my recommendation.
Well, with the Christmas break, how would you handle the Christmas break part of that, Marcelo? Or what would your ideas be? Because, I mean, there's potentially 3 weeks, and there's probably going to be a lot of kids getting skateboards this year, too. So how would you handle that part?
Well, if the council is asking, for the change of hours, then, obviously we would have to, change the hours back to the 7 to 10. I wouldn't recommend going as late as 10 because staff did have issues, and as, Ruben pointed out, they would probably be there until midnight or who knows the late hours. So the staff has had issues trying to even close down at 10.
I've seen it.
So there's, for us as a city too, it's the safety of our personnel as well. And of course, the safety of the personnel, of the individuals that are using the skate park as well. Because we do have little kids, believe it or not, that, shouldn't be there, given their age, they shouldn't be there unsupervised. So that was part of the concern too. But if this
I don't
council is asking us to go back to the hours now, then we would just have to basically open up and leave them the hours and back to what they were originally were.
At least for myself, that's my desire. I don't agree with extending it past 10. I agree that there's got to be a cutoff, and those kids shouldn't be out that late anyways. I mean, 10 o'clock is a good time to stop, but you have a whole nother segment of that skateboard
Sure, no, we
community
understand.
that wants to skate prior to noon. And especially when you think about the summertime, right now we don't have that issue, but in the summertime when it's, peaks are 110, 115 degrees, that population is definitely going to want to skate from that 7 a.m. until 11 or noon.
No, and we
They're
understand
gonna
that.
wanna
We
get out of
understand that.
there. It would be my recommendation or my desire to go back to the original hours, expedite the cameras as quickly as possible, but I don't want to tie the camera installation to the return to the original hours, because I think that could go into a couple more weeks or a month, and we have people that want to use that facility.
But two other things. I think Mr. Cardenas and we've all agreed that perhaps it goes back to the Community Services Commission for additional input as to the hours. I would also make a recommendation with regard to the ordinance that's in front of us. If we look at section 2B, that second sentence, it says the normal hours of operation shall be as designated by the director. I would suggest we remove the word normal and just say hours of operation
Opens
shall
up
be.
for-
I actually would agree with the mayor in that I think that the reverting back to the regular hours should happen
Immediately?
now, and not have to wait either for the installation of the cameras, and we need to expedite that, or for the next Community Services Commission.
That would be in January.
Agenda for discussion, but not have to wait.
Yeah, no, I wasn't suggesting, Mr. Silva, that we wait, but I do think that I like the idea of utilizing their talent and input.
Absolutely. I think, I don't know if seems maybe the consensus. I don't know, Ms. Garcia, if you want to chime in?
I think it definitely should be addressed. I think the cameras are a good idea. Cameras and lighting are always a deterrent to this kind of activity. But I also don't see any nexus with, that would necessitate limiting the hours, especially in the morning, if we haven't been presented with any of that information. And from the information that we have been presented, it seems that we have somebody that has been present multiple times and has explained that logically a lot of this activity happens at night when it's dark. That makes sense to me. So I would have no problem with
As a matter of fact, I wouldn't have a problem with maybe closing down at 9 o'clock
Yeah.
at night instead of 10 o'clock at night.
Close earlier, open earlier.
Close 9 o'clock at night. I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
I think we have maybe consensus and maybe potential direction that we go ahead and revert back to the original hours effective immediately, with the issue being posted on the agenda for community services in January and a report back to council thereafter. Would that be fair? And since I can't say your last name, I'm just going to say Ruben. Najera. I commend you on what you do for the community and that skateboard population, and I challenge you to take the next step and even go further and self-police and make sure that that community it's their property in essence. I mean, it's City of El Centro's property, but we built it for them, and so they need to understand that and take care of it, and somewhat police the bad elements, not feel threatened or intimidated by calling our local authorities when they see something that potentially could be detrimental to their activity. Because if we have those activities going on and that community is not reaching out to our law enforcement to address it, we could be back here in January looking at cutting hours again. And I don't think that's something that that community wants.
So my motion is to approve with the modification to that one section, to remove the word normal.
Okay. There's a motion by Walker, second by Silva. Please ballot. And passes 5-0. Ms. Pedro, what can we do to notify the community that the hours would return
What
back?
if we tell the Ivy Press sitting right there that we're changing the hours?
Is that something you can handle there, Mario?
You say it starts tomorrow, I can say it tomorrow.
Well, I want to give, in all fairness to Ms. Pedro, what is our staffing situation? Will we be able to open tomorrow, or do
It seems to
you?
me that word of mouth works really fast.
Probably, considering that we have people here, but we wanna make
If you're
sure.
asking us to open up at 7 in the morning tomorrow, then I wouldn't be able to do that because I would have to work with staff to do that.
Okay.
And then we have to change the sign that we currently have there. So if you want us to change it, we can make it effective Monday. And I can work with staff to do it effective Monday.
Okay.
So we can do the proper
Mario, you
signage.
can take
And
care of printing it. Ruben, you can take care of voicing it. How's that?
just for clarification, though, you're asking us to open from 7 in the morning to 9 in the evening.
Well, I think that I would prefer that you use your discretion, recognizing that the council says we would like you to open in the morning. So if that's 7, 8, or 9, whatever, but we're also recommending that we close earlier.
So maybe, are we okay with?
I don't know, 9 to
Let's-
9?
Let's ask the professionals here. Do anybody skate from 7 to 8?
Well, I mean,
How about 9 to 9?
honestly, if it closed at 9, I mean, it's so cold right now, you know what I mean? I mean, we needed those day hours, a lot of people, you know, the sunlight. So it closing at 9 right now is nowhere near, as people will be a lot happier over that than losing the whole
Daytime.
5 hours, 6 hours of daylight that was taken away originally, you know?
But the start time at 9 o'clock in the morning, would that be reasonable?
Why don't we look at 8 only because that 4-H group has scheduled they've scheduled their deals at 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's true.
So 8 to 9. So Marcelo, we'll make that effective next Monday.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 17. Does anybody need a break, or are we okay to push through?
I think we're almost done, aren't we?
Okay. Item number 17, discussion necessary action regarding consideration of resolution number 15-129 of the City Council of the City of El Centro, amending Community Service Department Parks and Recreation Division rules and regulations for designated skate area. Ms. Piedra.
Yes, basically, it's the same change, just to rule number 1 and 2, just indicating that the hours of operation will vary depending on the season and as determined by the Community Services Director. And then that park hours will be prominently posted at all designated skateboard areas. And then just allowing for the other wheeled recreational devices.
Okay.
That's just.
Any questions, or are we okay on that? Okay. Motion by Silva, second by Garcia. Please ballot. Ms. Becker, what do we do when we have
Abstain.
Do we just abstain on that? We'll take care of that. Motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Pedro. Item number 18, discussion and any necessary action regarding city council committee appointments. presentation myself. So I have, I had our city clerk send out an email to all members asking for input on appointments, and let's see, I made copies for Mr. Garcia. So I'll go through the appointments. If there's any objections that we need to reconsider, I'm certainly open to that. Our SCAG representative as league appointment will be Ms. Walker. Our LAFCO appointment as will be myself. I'm not familiar with how we do the area aging.
That will be done at the January meeting. We'll have a January 28th meeting.
Okay.
And actually what we'll ask is for Catherine Hill to put the Area Agency on Aging appointment and alternate on the agenda for the 28th.
Okay. ICTC, I've placed Ms. Walker as the representative and Mr. Cardenas as the alternate. I will continue as the JPIA rep along with our city manager or his designee as my alternate. El Centro Board of Trustees will be Ms. Walker and Mr. Silva.
Can I just one clarification?
Yes.
Both of the positions are voting members. no?
Correct. There is no
Correct.
longer an ex officio, so they are both representatives. Thank you, Mr. Silva. Air pollution control is, by appointment, is the mayor pro tem as the representative and the mayor as the alternate, so that'd be Mr. Cardenas and myself. The Airport Advisory Committee will be represented by Mr. Garcia as the as the representative, and the alternate will be Mr. Cardenas. The Film Commission will be Mr. Cardenas continuing as the representative, with Mr. Garcia being the alternate. Chamber of Commerce, by appointment, would be our pro tem as Mr. Cardenas, and the mayor as the alternate, myself. The United Way Emergency Food and Shelter Program will be led by Mr. Garcia, with alternate Ms. Walker. The Mexicali Liaison will be representatives, both representatives of Silva and Cardenas. The City Citizen Advisory Committee will be represented by Mr. Garcia, with the alternate being Mr. Cardenas. The Ad Hoc Committees and Task Force. Our Community Enhancement Task Force will be led by Ms. Walker. I will join her on that ad hoc, on that task force. The Animal Control also be Ms. Walker and myself. The City Charter Task Force will be Mr. Silva and Mr. Cardenas. The Aquatic Center Committee will be myself, with Ms. Walker continuing as the alternate. The El Centro Regional Affiliation Task Force will be, are we
I think that one can be
done with
disbanded.
that?
Yeah, I think in light of the signed agreement with UCSD, I think that task force can be disbanded.
Okay, we will consider that completed, and thank you, Ms. Walker, for all your time and effort on that and bringing that to a success. Our Library Task Force and Public Safety Task Force will continue to be led by myself and Mr. Cardenas. Friends of Community Service Foundation will continue to be Mr. Cardenas. And, did I forget to add something?
What's there, this new one?
Yeah, but do we need to add that to the agenda? Or do we just,
Well,
I
it
just
can be
appoint that?
included as part of the appointment.
Okay.
Did you say public safety?
Yeah,
it's an
public
action
safety is
item.
still yourself and me. And we are gonna have a new task force as the City Attorney Task Force, which will be led by Ms. Walker and myself. Is there anything that I'm forgetting or I left out, council or city clerk?
Did you want to set the evaluations panels now, or do you want to wait? And the council compensation, is that disband as well?
Yes.
Yes, that's complete. As far as evaluation panels, what's the desire of the council? Do we
Well,
wanna-
I think the city attorney one needs, city attorney is no longer necessary. City clerk, you've completed the goals and objectives. The only one that needs to continue for right now is Mr. Cardenas and myself, with the city manager, to complete the goals and objectives. And then I think when we get closer to, say, April, May, then we reappoint for the next evaluation period, would be my recommendation.
I think that's a fair assessment. So we'll wait on new panel appointments until later on in the year. Any discussion? Anybody have any comments, or is everybody good with appointments? Okay. Do we have to have We don't have to have a motion to approve.
I would vote on it.
Would you? Okay. Is there a motion to approve my recommendations?
Second.
Motion, oh, we actually have it up there. Moved by Silva, second by Walker. Please ballot. Appointments pass 5-0. Okay, we have an added item out of closed session. I need a motion to add. Motion by Cardenas, second by Silva. Please ballot. Motion to add item passes 5-0. This will be resolution 15-130.
1:30?
130. Resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving an agreement for legal services with Dennis H. Merida, APC, to assist the Office of the City Attorney on an on-needed basis. Do we need any comments or presentation?
I think that the recommendations that we requested to be made or not made to the Public or Personal Appeals Board contract, that those be carried forward here.
The carve-out?
Right, so as amended.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion and a second. Moved by Walker. Second by Silva. Please ballot. Passes 5-0. Okay. We have public comment. I'm sorry, I actually missed that. We do have one individual that would like to speak on a public comment, Mr. Orlando Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As you know, the temperatures are dropping, and there's no shelters in El Centro or North County. Calexico is the only one that has a men's shelter. As the representative of the Imperial Valley Regional Task Force, I'm here to ask if the council would consider opening up their public facilities for evening shelter for a 60-day period, 30 to 60-day period.
I think in the past we've utilized the National Guard Armory on 4th Street. Is that building available?
No, that's not available. They have an issue with staffing. Previously, they would have a unit of 10, officers. They only have 2. And their officers would have to be there overnight with the homeless. And that wouldn't to do their jobs. So that doesn't work for them anymore.
And that can't be staffed by volunteers either? Yeah.
Their staff would have to be there to do the work.
Some representative.
Yeah, and they only have 2. If they had a whole unit of 10, they could allot, 3 or 4, but just 2.
Okay, so what I was
Yeah, so our
thinking is-
volunteers would be able to do it.
Okay, so if it was the 2 of them and 8 volunteers for a total of 10, that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, that was going to work.
So what's the proposal with regard to a city facility then, and how would that be staffed?
Well, a gymnasium, community center, multipurpose room, after hours, check in at 7 at night, check out at 7 in the morning.
And who staffs it?
The task force volunteers would staff it, members of the task force. If there's an issue with liability coverage, we can ask the county to include the city as an additional insured.
I had, those kinds of questions, Orlando, as to the logistics, the dynamics, the, legal issues, because I'm assuming that it's not as easy as just, unlocking the door and letting people in.
Yeah, they would be screened as they come in for referral for additional services. So we'll know who they are. We don't want those with other issues coming in. We want the true homeless that are coming in there. Our staffing would be the volunteers to monitor them, get the food, clothing if needed, and provide any other needs. We wouldn't need city staff other than to open up and to close.
Mr. Johnson, has the homelessness task force approached any of the churches that have gymnasiums?
Yeah. I had a presentation from a group out of San Diego called the Interfaith Shelter Network come down, and I invited the churches to come in on 2 occasions. The first occasion, we had probably 5 churches show up, and the second time, we only had 3. But their issue is churches have nurseries and schools as well, those that have facilities, and they can't have the homeless there with the children. With this program that the Interfaith Shelter Network has, they would rotate churches every 2 weeks, and at the end of the 10-week program, they would put them in a permanent shelter. And then all the other churches would provide the support of food, transportation, and so forth. But we still couldn't get enough interest. We're going to try and use 2 churches to get some interest to do it, to see if the churches will get on board with it. But at the last meeting, we couldn't get any interest.
Johnson, have you guys assessed in terms of how many beds you're looking at, and of those beds, how many are maybe men, women, children? Is there
Well,
been some sort of assessment there?
I spoke with Brawley, say for instance. Brawley has a low count on homeless, and Roseanne was taking it to their council tonight. We're looking at 15 in Brawley. Maybe the Lions Club is a possible site. Here in El Centro, we're probably looking at 30, I would say. And most of them are men. There's a small female population. And one of your facilities can be divided for rooms to have men on one side, women on one side would work, or even curtains, for that matter. The bedding can be provided. United Way has cots, and I believe the Armory has cots that they would lend us for that period. But that's how it would work. We did the same thing in Calexico with their temporary shelter, and that's not available anymore. With they have other issues that it's not going to allow them to do it. So
was it Calexico that put up the tents in the park?
At Rockwood Park.
They purchased those, didn't they?
They purchased them. I was told they were purchased for the homeless, but I found out they were purchased as temporary disaster facilities. And so when I reapproached them, that's when I was told that it's a temporary disaster facility and they wouldn't be able to do it. So, but I mean, it's something that the council can consider. We're already into it, with the temperatures dropping, but January and February, they're going to really get to the low 30s, if not the high 20s. And so, if you need some time to think about it or discuss it with staff. And
I don't know that we have a lot of time because we're going dark in our first meeting in January.
In January?
Next meeting is not until
19th, January 19th.
And when does Mr. Duran return?
The 28th of December.
Okay, so, I don't think we want to wait. Who do we have on staff that can do an assessment of the appropriateness or feasibility, not appropriateness, feasibility of allowing a city facility to be used in this manner? Is it the acting city manager with maybe support from department heads? Can we refer this to staff for a recommendation?
Yes, I believe.
I mean, because off the top of my head, the only thing that I'm thinking of is the old post office, and the problem with that is there's just so many nooks and crannies where people could go.
Right.
And trying to police that.
Well, any facility that has one large room that
Right.
can be divided would work. If the post office has individual rooms, they can be confined to those separate rooms and monitored. I mean, that would work.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have bathroom facilities too.
From a
They have
location
bathrooms.
perspective,
Mhm.
Orlando, what's your feeling about what's the better location?
Well, I mean, I thought about the Conrad Harrison Center, but basketball, I think, is taking place there in the evenings. So if they check in at 7, that means basketball would have to stop at 7. But the community center, I don't know what the schedule is, but if the community center multipurpose area would be open, that would, because it can be divided into rooms. They have a kitchen area, and the divider can be made for an area just for the bedding, and then taken out during the day for use. But I don't believe it's used at night very much for anything. But that would be the first choice. If the post office has enough room and rooms that are divided, that would probably be second choice.
Orlando, what do you, I guess my question is, what assurances do we have, and who would ultimately be responsible for such things as paraphernalia, items that are typically banned from shelters. I know that was a big issue when Calexico did their shelter.
Correct.
Is who was monitoring that? Who was stopping those individuals? Because a lot of those individuals couldn't get shelter at, say, the Salvation Army or some of the faith-based operations because they wouldn't adhere to the rules that were put in place. And I think Calexico kind of just didn't enforce that. How would we do something like that, and who would ultimately be responsible? Would it be the coalition? Would it be the
Correct.
city? Where's the liability fall? Whether there's an assault, you're talking about housing men and women. If there's a, God forbid, a sexual battery. I mean, any kind of thing like that. Who does that liability fall on?
Well, it's a city facility, but like I said, if we can get the county to cover the liability coverage as an additional insured for that, then that would be on the county's insurance. But our staff would screen the homeless coming in and let them know that they have to abide by the rules and there's no drugs, no paraphernalia, no alcohol during the hours that they're in the facility. No pets unless they're, service animals. But that's how we did it in the past, and it worked. But in Calexico, they did have a couple of issues, but Calexico had the issue of farm workers and homeless.
Right.
This is homeless. We're not, concerned with the farm workers.
And I guess I have a follow-up question for our city attorney. If the county were to add us as additional insured, what kind of overall protection does that give us, and what is limited from that kind of protection?
Well, that would have to depend on how, we would have to have a written agreement, and it would have to depend on how the language in the agreement as to who is responsible, how the liability falls.
So in essence, we'd have to have an MOU between the county and additional insured policies that were part of that MOU?
That would be my recommendation as well. And certainly we would want our own insurance company to take a look to ensure, get their input on
And
the city's
typically-
exposure.
And typically, what's the time frame to get, I mean, that seems kind of like a long process.
I believe, if I may just real quick, I think Councilmember Walker made an excellent point on maybe giving direction to staff to do a mini feasibility study and maybe come back or share. I know we don't meet until the second week in January, but at least some sort of feasibility study to determine if we have the facilities, and then maybe address the legal issues as well.
Well, and here's the thing, the homeless aren't going away, and we know it's going to be cold next winter as well.
Right.
So we might as well lay the groundwork, and if we can quickly get something in place to benefit people this year, fantastic. Otherwise, let's have it in place so that next year
Of
we
course.
just roll with it. So
Of course.
I-
The problem we have this year is also El Nino. I mean, it's not just
Right.
cold. It's we don't know when that rain's gonna start,
Exactly.
but it's gonna be here for a while,
So sooner rather than later, and then I think that maybe we include Ms. Villacana and Ms. Piedra to see if there's maybe some property owners, private property owners that would have space available that under
Yeah.
the right circumstance would make it available.
Well, Marty's gone, but that would have been the ideal situation.
He mentioned several buildings that are
Yeah.
empty, so I
Yeah.
think we punt this to staff with a sense of urgency to see if we can get something.
Yeah.
And I think there's gonna have to be some dialogue obviously with the county regarding the liability, so we're gonna have to enter into that conversation with county council and see where we
Sooner
are with
rather
that.
than later.
Yeah.
Well, I can work with Marcella. She's on the task force,
Yay.
her and Liz, so.
And I think that when we decided to go dark in January, we did it with the understanding that if there was some
Pressing
need
issue.
to come back, that we would do that. So I think if the need is such that we would
Yeah.
have to meet earlier, that I think we are all open to that idea.
Even if it's only for one item, for something like that, we could come in
Lunchtime or?
lunchtime and do something like that, so.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Johnson?
No question, but thank you, Orlando, for
Yes.
your advocacy on behalf of the homeless. I think because if you weren't here, we wouldn't even be talking about it. Thank you so much.
Well, it's something that's needed. No one wants it in their backyard. It's a NIMBY thing. But we're not going to eliminate it unless we start doing something. And I think finally we're at the point where we're starting to do something. The county's behind us. There's a lot of funding out there for it. We just have to apply for it. This year we had $500,000 available, and we had enough programs to use up about 300,000. We still left 200,000 on the table. So there's still room for other programs and shelters, but we can't get nonprofits and some of these agencies to apply for the funds. So it's really just getting and encouraging these people to apply for the funding to help the homeless, and it would eliminate a lot more of the problem.
You know, just real quickly, what about Catholic Charities as far as, you know, their center on the east side? I was there recently for the turkey
Yeah.
giveaway. You know, that's a big open area there, and that's kind of in their mission statement.
Yeah.
Have they been approached and
They haven't been approached, but I can talk to them. Matter of fact, Martha Ranson is my vice chair, and I can approach her on the same thing. I know they have several large rooms. I don't know if they have, well, the insurance coverage wouldn't be a problem either, because they're the collaborative applicant for the continuum of care, so they would probably work as well. I can approach them as well.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay?
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Any other members of the public
Oh, Lordy.
wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll go to task force and mayor and council reports. Mr.
Just a couple of things. So I wanted to thank our staff and your, as an information item in our agenda, we have the business guide that was prepared by staff as a result of the meetings that we have with the business community, and this is one of the items that they have requested as a means of having consistent information, who to go to for permits and questions and things. So, Marcela, thank you so much for the report, for the guide, and I think it's very, very well done. The only event that I attended last week was an event that originally we had planned to host through the city of El Centro with the Mexican consulate. That changed because of some logistics issues. But I did attend on Thursday of last week a presentation by the city of Puerto Escondido, Oaxaca, who has a travel show that they're wanting to get into the United States and promote their city as a tourist destination, and they had original Oaxaqueño food that was out of this world. And for the first time in my life, I had grasshoppers, which they were delicious. You add salsa to something and it tastes good. So it was a really good event. They had raffles. They asked all of us to put our business cards.
You did see my comment,
and
right?
I did see your comment and a box, and then they raffled off certain overnight stays in Oaxaca, and through that raffle. So I don't know if it's a reportable.
How much is it worth?
It's worth.
Oh,
it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Then it's reportable.
But it was a raffle. It wasn't a gift to me.
I'd be more than willing to report it under my name if you'd like to. Yeah.
So I won the grand prize, which is a 3-night stay
Saltwater
in
fishing tournament.
Puerto Escondido and admission to
love
a
to go
huge fishing tournament.
That's fixed.
I don't fish, so no, it wasn't fixed.
I do. Hinted.
Yeah, so anyways, it was a great event, and so I may be going to Puerto Escondido next November. Who knows?
All right.
That's all.
Just real quick, Mr. Mayor, again, Christmas parade, thanks to Liz's efforts, I was able to get on a fire truck and have a lot of fun, I know. Go ahead.
No, yes. The Christmas parade.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So Christmas parade, excellent job, Liz. Employee awards, excellent. Was able to serve breakfast with our colleagues. And I think every employee received a gift, received a raffle prize. You and your team, Liz, excellent job. Great event. Also special recognition to our chief, attended a portion of the active shooter training. So right in here in this building, they had some active shooter training for our staff. It was great to see Parks and Recs staff in there, and a lot of great information that I'm going to be sharing with my family, because there's a lot of different things that, there's some prevention, but I really appreciate the fact that our chief took the initiative to provide this active shooter training, and I believe there's a couple more sessions still coming up. It's a very informative presentation, and really nice, great ideas. And then I had an opportunity real quick, and I just want to share this, but I had an opportunity to speak with our CEO from our hospital. They had quite an interesting incident over the weekend. They had a hazmat call where about 12 agricultural workers were exposed to some very serious pesticide chemicals. And these 12 employees were rushed over to our hospital, and they had to set up, I mean, it was literally strip and what do they call it? They call it strip and wash. So they had to set up these showers outside and get these folks, because the last thing they want is this getting into the bloodstream. So our CEO of our hospital, and along with our battalion chief, Cedric Cesena, they went out there, they set up this whole operation, and this water is not warm. And they're just, washing these people down, along with some of the other challenges of running our emergency room. And they handled this thing with such class, and there was no further injuries. And, it's just a special recognition goes to our fire department and also our hospital staff. But they did an excellent job in addressing these folks. It was a huge operation. I have a couple of pictures here that maybe I'll share with you guys, but these folks were out there, at 8 o'clock at night being sprayed down with cold water, and the hospital staff brought out these heaters and stuff to keep them warm, but pretty intense, and we handled it very, very well. So special recognition to our fire department, county EMS, and the hospital in dealing with that. So great work. And want to welcome Mr. Garcia.
Yes.
And Merry Christmas to everybody. Ms. Walker?
So the footnote to that story is that was all unfolding while we were having the
Yes.
ECRMC Christmas Gala out at Barbara Worth. And so everybody's cell phones were exploding on the table. I'm sitting between Tomas and Kathy Kennerson and like the chief nursing officer. And so everyone is working to get that done. And yeah,
Incredible.
kudos to them. Starting down this way, I'd like to thank Chris Becker for her 5 years of service as our city attorney. This is Ms. Becker's last meeting with us, unless something blows up and we have to come together again. But Chris, it's been a joy to work with you. You've been a true professional, and you will be missed. And thank you for your service.
This is my pleasure. Thank you.
Good job. I will note that Task Force Council reports at 7:50, so you're going to have to step up your game.
Yeah.
But good job. It's your first meeting, and
Thank you.
and welcome. On behalf of SCAG, I am going to pass out cards with regard to the Southern California Economic Summit being held Thursday, January 7th in Los Angeles. Details with regard to what information will be shared at the summit. Also wanted to remind you that at the SCAG meeting on December 3rd, we released the Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy for the 2016-2040 time period. There is going to be an elected official briefing in Imperial County. They're actually doing outreach throughout the SCAG region. The briefing in Imperial County will be held January 27th at the ICTC board meeting in the county board chambers. Also, staff knows that the PEIR has been released, and I'm wondering if staff will be working on comments or review. Don't know, is that traditionally what happens, or not sure about that either. I have the disc. I'm more than happy to give it to staff to take a look at. The other couple of items, El Centro Regional Medical Center will be making an announcement, I believe it's tomorrow, with regard to a 3-year letter of intent with the Heffernan Healthcare District to offer expanded services in Calexico. Long overdue for the people in Calexico, and I think that the fact that they're partnering with ECRMC is just really fantastic. Last thing to report on is I did attend as a city's representative to the Imperial County Transportation Commission meetings on December 9th. They have released for comment the Safe Routes to School Master Plan. And it includes an evaluation of every single school site throughout Imperial County and makes recommendations as to safety improvements. So if you're interested in that, it is available on the ICTC website. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Garcia?
Thank you, Ms. Walker. 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 Thank you, Ms.
Well, this is my first meeting, so I don't have anything to report, but I'd like to say thank you very much to Chris Becker for acting as our city attorney for 5 years. You will be missed, and I look forward to working with my colleagues for the betterment of the city.
Thank you. So it was a busy first 10 days or so for me as the mayor. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. First, I want to say, and since she's still here, I want to acknowledge Liz, her staff, Amy and Clara, Mike and Gabe, and all the guys at maintenance. I think the reorg was a huge success.
Oh, it was wonderful.
And a great way to kick off the new year. Also want to thank Chris as our city attorney. She officially became our city attorney right when I came on to the council, and I think that was one of the first things. I think it was my first meeting. Is we were doing her contract to make her our official city attorney. So your services to the city have been greatly appreciated, and I greatly appreciate you trying to keep me out of trouble most of the time, although not always successful. Sometimes I still wandered into that territory, but thank you. Attended the tree lighting, Christmas parade. Marcella got me to Zumba at the senior wellness program, which I never thought would happen. El Centro Day at Solis de Mexicali. We didn't have quite the success that we wanted, but we broke the ice. We had about, I think, 35 or 40 people from Save El Centro purchased tickets and attended that. I thought it was a huge success. Spoke with the owner of the team, spoke with the president of operations. They're very excited about continuing our relationship and expanding that to, and I think we're going to try to look at possibly doing another game in February or March, probably March because February is full of things. But the good news is they're a good team too. It's enjoyable to watch. They're first place. They're undefeated at home, and something I didn't know and might be a surprise is the owner of the team is a former employee of Jack Holt with the Holt Group in 1987 to 89.
Wow.
And he's owned the team for about 10 years. Really nice guy, very hospitable, and looks forward to some continued relationship. So we had a nice time. I sat in his box the second half and conversed about all kinds of things.
That's probably reportable
yeah.
also.
Yeah, reportable. I'm sure. Chris, I'm sure will let me know. But you know, they're very excited, and the hospitality that they showed towards everybody. They brought all of us down. We did a photo shoot or photo shot in the center court at halftime. And if you go on the Solis's Facebook page, they posted all that stuff. There's pictures. It's on the city's Facebook too. Well, I knew that because you would take care of that. But you know, it was nice. They had pictures of me with their mascot and high-fiving and stuff. It was fun. So look forward to that.
Did they feed you?
They did not feed us. There might have been a Diet
Beverages?
Coke involved.
That's reportable too.
Yeah, but what's the limit? $50? It'd have to be a really expensive Diet Coke.
I'm just saying.
Attended the employee awards. I want to thank our Mayor Pro Tem for stepping in and finishing out for me. I had another commitment out of town, but was able to do the welcome and also serve in the breakfast along with some of my colleagues. And I know Chris was there and Terry also helped out. So it was a great first 10 days. I look forward to the other 355 of them. As the mayor. And
Mr. Mayor, do not forget to make your call to KXO tomorrow morning.
That's right, I do that. What time is that? 7?
Call before 7.
I usually called at 6:30 in my pajamas, hoping that my dogs didn't bark in the background.
I'd have to worry about my cat meowing in the background, but I will do that. I guess, is there anything else for the council?
Good of the order? Other than Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, and everybody have a safe holiday.